started here. The quick, so this is actually, I'm going to paste it in there so everybody will see that. And that was the recap of the last session before the Stolen Century. So you guys, basically, so cohesively, this all happened, and then a few minutes later is where we are right now, as opposed to the months of Stolen Century in the middle. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
All good.
Yep.
All right. I remember actually because I went back and listened to part of that. The part that I listened to was where where Becky was surprised that it was the liquid that the jellyfish were swimming in that you guys were drinking. That made me laugh. All right, so getting started here. So when people talk about the day that the hunger came, they mostly talk about how they felt and how they thought it was the end of days, essentially. These invisible beings slaughtering man, woman, child, and animal indiscriminately. In the early outset, this event was called different things by different cultures. The Cataclysm, Apocalypse, Ragnarok, Judgment Day, that kind of thing. But after the dust had settled, though, it was called the Vast Erudition, for reasons that you guys will be, well, by the end of this one, you guys will understand. That's what it's called. Elsbeth's masterful perfection, rather, of her altered shield spell, it was working. With the Idrulim empowering her channel of Recondidus, the wall was going up and cutting off the world from the outer planes. the Reaper Ophelia in Crow's Thicket, the domain of death, she knew because she could see it all around, choking the ethereal plane off, separating it from the rest of the system. She was safe, but only just barely. She needed to get out, she needed to fulfill her sacred duty back in the living world, and plus it was almost time for her to retire, and she was getting too old for this shit. So in Crow's Thicket, Ophelia struck a deal with her boss. And out in Dry Gulch, the woods witch seer Mammy, she saw it too, in a manner of speaking. She was baking a batch of honey cakes that morning, and her crystalline prophecies, that the ones were hanging from the ceiling when you guys were there, that had hung there for decades, they fell and all shattered in unison. Her home was kind of flooded with these divisions of the catastrophes, that this day would bring, a world that was covered in darkness and ash. When those visions cleared, though, she surveyed those shadowed crystals. Her livelihood obviously was pretty much gone at that point, save for one prophecy that had stayed suspended there. So carefully she cut it down and gathered up the citizens of that time-sick town, and they would travel west to a time and place where they could be of help. The scientist Oliver Miller, he couldn't see the hunger, but through his gemstone windows to the worlds outside, he could see the chaos that it was inflicting. And the trouble, the currents, the rills between the planes were being troubled there. The explosive disruptions of the plane of magic, the outright panic, the bustling cities in the plane of thought, and here in this world the damage was indescribable. Months ago he'd made a promise to atone for his past sins by doing some measure of good with his life, and he had told himself that today he would see that promise fulfilled. So, now that we are back in the current moment, nope, not that one. There we go. In the 60 seconds that passed since your memories returned, a lot of stuff has happened. So here's the scene. In the center of this main dome, in the college's headquarters on the moon of Endris, Navarre and Peter, you guys are struggling to stay standing upright after the weight of the revelations that were just kind of bestowed on you. Quiet. Pardon me. And then in front of you, near the dais at the back of the room, are Captain Drew, who is kneeling with just his face in his hands. He just drank the ichor that Jack gave him. Gee, what is, like, can you turn your mic? I'm not sure if that's, well, I don't know if it's mutable or something, but it was like a scraping sound or something. Alright. Anyways, Captain Drew is kneeling, he's got his face in his hands. He just drank the ichor that Jack had given him. And Elsbeth, who was still inside of this kind of semi-transparent bubble shield, channeling the final portion of Apotheosis out of the Statera scales and into her shield spell. Ketis, you're stumbling near the entrance to this chamber, and Jack has just helped you to stand back upright. When you entered, he scrambled to you and helped you get inoculated, and kind of sent you down that same century's worth of memories that your teammates just explored a minute ago. Near the Idrilim disposal chamber, though, this great white spherical room where all the relics had been, or you at least believed that they were being destroyed, is Carrie. And she's frantically trying to bandage up a wounded arm, and Jack throws a flask of Ichor over to her after inoculating Ketis, and tells her to drink, and after tying off the bandage, she obliges. Faith, the mechanical ghost, in her robotic form, outstretches, and she's kind of barring the door to this dome while Ango is levitating bits of furniture to block a wall in the entrance using a spell that Peter had taught him just weeks ago. And outside through the glass walls of this dome, you can see that the college members are running for cover, and a horde of these liquid black creatures are just pounding at the entrance to this dome and all of the other doors that they've kind of tried to escape through. And above, through this glass dome, you see the hunger. And for the first time in a long time, you truly appreciate that it's happening here and now, that this is, despite having been safe for a couple of years now, that it's here. What are you guys doing? The hunger creatures are not in this room with you. You basically are all of you guys. You can see through the dome that they're outside in the other parts of the college. Ango and Faith are basically blocking the doorway.
How long does aid last?
Let's see. What level is it?
I believe it was level 2. Because I don't have it on here. It just has it on the pendant, says that I can cast it.
Yeah. Let me pull it up here. It lasts for 8 hours, damn.
Alright. Now, since I could put up to a level 5 spell, can I cast it at level 5?
I think what you put in it stays the level that you put in it at.
Okay.
Cast aid once per day is the one you chose for that. Yeah, it would just be at its base level.
Alright, well, I guess I will cast that.
Okay. I think it's 3 creatures.
3.
So who are you putting it on?
Yeah.
The 3 of you?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I'll do it that way.
Okay, 5 temporary HPs for everybody.
Yeah.
Ketis already just overwrote those. They don't stack.
Okay.
But 5 HPs, 5 temp for Nivara and for Peter. Okay, so you've thrown that up. You reach up and kind of hold into your pendant and send that out for both yourself and Peter. Ketis kind of just flips you off and decides that his is better, so he ignores yours. So what are you guys doing? You see Elsbeth kind of building the shield up around herself. Drew is kind of choking a little bit just behind her. And it's basically you guys. Ketis has now kind of joined you guys as well, so you guys are all kind of together in this dome chamber.
Is there any other ways out except for the door? The one door that Carrie is watching?
There's the doorway that goes into her private office, which is where... Well, actually, that's out through the hallway anyway, so no. Basically, the door that's being blocked right now is the way out.
Alright, well, what do you guys think? Get out there and start moving or wait for them to come to us?
While you guys are discussing, what should we do, because you just had this flood of memories come in, of course. Nivara remembering that her sister existed, and then was essentially taken away, and so on. All of that came in all at once, of course. So Drew, who is kind of still choking and just starting to stand up behind her, and he kind of looks at her, and she's facing you guys. She's not facing him. And she says, "Where's the ship, Elsbeth?" And she kind of, ignoring him, looks at you guys. Well, Peter and Ketis are still standing behind a little bit over near the doorway. She ignores him. She says, "Peter, Nivara, look, please trust me. It's what we did to this world. Like, you know it wasn't right. We made a promise almost 100 years ago." Jack kind of pipes up. This will be a very narrative-heavy session if you guys don't have anything to say, which is fine. I mean, it is near the ending, of course, but this is basically the beginning of the finale. The big fight will be some in this one and some in the next session. Anyways, Jack says, Elsbeth, you get that Nyvar just realized that she lost her sister, right? This isn't the time for you to explain yourself.
Well, don't really know if we have time to explain much right now anyway. Probably talk about this shit later. We're gonna be busy in just a minute.
She turns and looks at you. She says, that's right. Yeah, we don't have time. I need to get this up. She says, look, this is going to be hard to hear, but remember, almost a century ago, Yorth made us promise that we would never again put a world in danger just to thwart the Hunger's plans. And that's exactly what we did to this world, and I took steps to fix it, and look, what makes you think she's not out there trying to do this exact same thing when she disappeared?
Well, I guess it's a bit late now, isn't it?
Drew, kind of ignoring both you and the conversation that you're having with her, he repeats himself. He says, "Where is the ship, Elsbeth? We need to leave before it's too late. This plan didn't work, so we need to leave here and we need to try again. We need to leave here." And he kind of turns towards to Ketis and Navara and Jack and Peter, and he says, "Navara, Jack, we leave here and Yorth comes back. You get that, right?" We leave here and we start a new cycle and we're all back together again. That's how it works, remember?
As Nyvar, would I have put together that she was inside the book?
That's up to you. You've had enough clues.
And I have no way of knowing how to get her out of it, do I?
Correct. From the doorway, as you guys are conversing over this, you hear Ango kind of sheepishly trying to interject but not be impolite, and he says, "Sirs, madams, I mean, please, just don't leave us to this, please."
Yeah, well, we gotta do something, so
Yeah,
gotta
I'm
figure
not
out
so
something
sure
fast.
that
Drew
leaving
kinda-
is an option anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Drew says, "I mean, if we get the ship, it is." And he asks her again. He asks her again, "Elsbeth, where is the shoes?" And she doesn't answer. She just keeps channeling her spell.
I just want to shield up.
There's a boom overhead. I mean, there's a lot of kind of cacophonous screaming and booming going around anyway. Carrie kind of, you see her pull her glowing sword out. And she says, "Listen, running away, that's not how we do things here. Like, everybody just stop and just explain what's going on so we know how to fight this." And as she does that, I'm going to have you guys watch a little clip, actually, if I can grab the link from it. There we go, copy link. Watch that real quick. It's only like 20 seconds or something.
Cool.
Becky, Sarko?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody make deck saves.
man.
That's not
It's
a
gonna
good
be a
start.
repeat of yesterday.
I think you had like 4. You had 3 or 4 natural ones in there. I mean, if you counted damage, it was probably even more. Nivara, there's the ceiling above you explodes in this shower of glass, and you all, it's above all of you. You all hear something that sounds like a train speeding by, just this deafening roar. Ketis and Peter, you guys dive out of the way, just the falling shards of glass, just narrowly saving your limbs. Nivara, though, as you try to dive backwards, you're just barely too slow, and you're going to take some slashing damage as bits of glass lacerate through your clothing and gear. It is 2d12. Shit, take 23. You rolled a 12 and an 11. So that burns through your temporary HPs, and you have 18 damage. But as the ceiling kind of erupts, as this black opal tendril just smashes down in through the dome and burrows itself under the floor with this with this splat of kind of liquid black sand. Roll some initiative.
Well, at least it's slightly better.
Not a natural one this time.
Nope. Okay, I've got a question. On my B shapes, I've got water elemental. Would I have any of the others?
You have all 4 of them. You have the 4 primary elements. Did I not copy others in there for you?
No, it's just the water elemental on there.
Okay. Let me grab those for you. It's a shame that frickin' I told you about the extension, right? That has all of the cool one-click thing for druids. I told you about that, didn't I?
Yeah.
So it's kind of working now, but not where it should be. Basically, you still end up accidentally overriding your stats all the time, which is really irritating. But it's a shame that we didn't have that working all the way at the start of this, because it would have made your B shapes more fun to use, anyways, probably.
Alright, and quick question. Since I got the Warcaster ability, I can do any spell now in my B shape, right?
That wasn't from Warcaster. That was the casting spells. Go ahead.
The Warcaster, I think it said that you don't have to do the somatic anymore, I think it was. One of them. You didn't have to do anymore. And it was the only one that I couldn't do in my B shape. So if I no longer have to do that, I can do them all in my B shape, right?
That sounds right. I would say that I thought the ability you got at 18 or something lets you cast all spells. Is it basically you couldn't do somatic when you were in B shapes? That's what it was?
Yeah, I think it was a somatic. It was one of them, and Warcaster took care of that, I think.
Let me check here. People have mentioned this combination specifically, so... Yeah, you can. Doesn't shape well. Most of your spells that still require concentration. It's not going to help those. Which, because I'll have to pull over all of the abilities for them. Which are you trying to use one specific elemental form right now?
I was gonna go with the Earth elemental.
Earth, okay. Oh, hang on.
You know what? Before we start this, I'm gonna
Go ahead.
transfer and go upstairs real fast. So I'll be right back. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Alright, let me get all of the abilities dragged over. Immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and slam. Alright, there we go. That's up for you, so you can go ahead and use those when you're ready. Damn, Ben got a 25 on his initiative. Damn it. His mouse is acting up.
So yes, I'm gonna do that. Whoa, that's a lot.
Jeez, 123.
Holy crap.
You rolled pretty good too. Those are good numbers in there. Fucking A. Stupid mouse keeps not clicking where I'm trying to tell it to, so it basically clicks and drags the wrong thing. Fucking irritating. I use a special kind of a mouse, so like it's you know, I can replace it. They're not expensive. They're only like 20-25 bucks, but still irritating.
Alright, so do I need to hit the resistance, the effect?
Yeah.
So while we're waiting for him to come back, we're in the room with all the E-drilling crew.
They're not. The only one you can see is the one that's inside the bubble with. Well, okay. So narratively, you don't know this, but you've kind of intuited that every time that you guys have brought one back, she's been channeling it into this spell. So that basically she's essentially rebuilding Apotheosis, which you guys remember she did not want to break Apotheosis apart in the first place. So she's been rebuilding Apotheosis, but as each piece comes in, she's been kind of taking the power out of it and rebuilding it to power this spell. And you see it going up around her. She's about to send it out that would, you know, surround the planet and lock everything else out.
Oh, you have to put me in the combat tracker because it's not going to let me do the effects.
Yeah, I do, huh? Where is your 9? Yeah, let me put you in there. There you go.
So since Peter already understands a little
What?
bit what's going on here,
Oh, Destiny.
Sorry, Sako, what?
since Peter kind of already understands this whole spell that she's trying to do and everything, he's understanding of what's happening right now. He's aware that she's pushing this bubble out that essentially, if it surrounds, let's just say, you know, the solar system or whatever she wants to surround, it would block out all ethereal situations, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's already casted. It's basically a permanent channel is what she's trying to put up. So it's already in effect. It's already happening. It's just not finished yet. But yeah, Peter does definitely understand that. In fact, I would say Peter probably had an inkling that this was what she was trying to do anyway before. You just didn't know until drinking basically he had an inkling before remembering everything from the Stolen Century that she wasn't being upfront about what she was doing with the Idrilene. You just didn't know what the Idrilene were, didn't know that they were Apotheosis, you didn't know the amount of power that it could apply. So,
yeah, I remember the early sessions. I was kind of weary of her intentions.
Yeah. And she was aware of that as well, so she was, you know, careful about letting you get closer or learning too much. But keep in mind, too, I don't want you guys to feel like she's the bad guy necessarily. Like, remember, you had, you know, 100 years of being very close, of essentially being family. So what she's doing, she thinks is the right thing. You know, she's doing it out of, you know, the right idea, basically. Well, at least whether you think she's wrong or not is up to you, but the rest of the crew definitely thinks she's wrong to try to do this.
Just kind of flipping through all my notes here. In theory, this should work.
Let me know when you're all back, G.
It just popped up, so I'll be in just a sec.
Okay.
Okay, come on.
Okay. All right, so you pouring out of this column in front of you guys, the circle in the center, which is basically it collapsed over Elsbeth. You can't see her anymore. The bubble she was putting up around herself is in the middle of that tendril that you guys saw in that video. That, by the way, did you recognize what that was from, Sako?
Kind of. I couldn't put my finger on it though.
So that actually, probably 6 months into Balance or so was when that game came out. It's Prey. It was a 2017 Prey. I think it came out at the end of 2017. I played through that game and I loved it, but the very end of it, that's a scene at the very end, basically. And I saw that and I was like, fuck, those tendrils look exactly like what I was doing here. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could like fit that in. So I literally took there was a clip on YouTube of the ending of it, and I just cut just that one scene of it kind of flying out of the sky and breaking this glass dome, and thought that would be perfect for it. So I'll give you kind of a visual representation of what it looks like. But anyways, that tendril smashed in through the dome. All the blue shit that you see on the map there, that's broken glass, so that's going to be hazardous terrain to try to move through. It won't slow your speed, but if you don't slow your speed, you'll take damage. It's 2d4 for every 5 foot square that you step through that area. So basically, if you walk slowly or carefully, half your speed, you won't take damage. But if you walk through at full speed, you're going to be stepping on broken glass. And then the center part of it is where that tendril is smashed into the floor, and pouring out of that column. You see 5 pools of black liquid sand that are moving in different directions, slowly rising up and coalescing into various forms. One pool begins rising up into the shape of this quadrupedal predator, some alien shape like a lion almost, and it stalks its way towards the doorway where you see Carrie set her jaw, and then kind of hold her glowing short sword out in front of her, and that mechanical ghost Faith retracts her arm and extends a barrel in its place, preparing for a fight. Another pool, this one forming something that like a many-armed skeleton, advances on towards Jack, and it kind of collapses forward through it and crashes on top of Drew instead. Jack, seeing this, he kind of runs over to aid the captain, and finally the 3 figures that are forming up out of the pool that are moving towards you guys in the front of the column there. One resembles a horse-sized flying insect, almost. One is almost crab-like, with these sharp kind of bladed legs, and one of them is this thick-furred ape-like creature. I will go ahead and make them visible for you guys.
It's got to be a horse-sized insect instead of an insect-sized horse.
If it was an insect-sized horse, I'd have to make 100 of them to make it a fair fight. That's good. All right, so Peter, you kind of you ready your staff. Well, I moved him in the wrong spot. Here we go. You kind of pull Paratus out and ready your staff to prepare for this fight here, and you feel something brush up beside you, and you turn and see Ango, who's taken position back to back with you. His wand is kind of held in a dueling position that you taught him, and he looks up at you, and without speaking, he just kind of nods at you guys. What are you guys doing? It is Ketis' turn.
Okay.
Feels like so long since you guys had, a fight or anything using these characters.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't play. Embers was 3 weeks. This one we played 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, also 3 weeks ago. Just feels like forever since we actually got to play, not counting yesterday.
All right, I'm going to use.
Do you have a 5th level spell slot used, Becky?
I don't think so. I shouldn't.
I see a dot there. Yeah, I don't think you should. I mean, you guys have had a long rest, so you didn't use anything, right, this time? Okay.
No, I just used my beast shape, which
Okay.
I have unlimited beast shapes now. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I just realized I can't see any of my slots with this gray background.
Yeah, that's what I noticed is that when it's full, I couldn't see it either. So let me find a different color here. Use your investiture of stone. That's not quite right, but it'll do. All right, that's your action to do that, right? It's a full spell slot or a full action.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. So
All right.
And
Throw
I'm
your
going
shield up.
to...
Okay.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to roll that dice. I'm going to actually move myself. Well, actually, I don't want to get in Peter's way, so I'll probably just... No, I'll just wait there, actually. Yeah.
Where you were?
So, yep.
All right. Then it is that big insect's turn. You see it lean its head. It kind of leans back on its back forelegs and raises its front legs, praying mantis style, up a little bit, and its neck cranes back, and it emits this barking, kind of clicking bark sound. It'll be Ango, Peter, and Ketis need to make a dex save. You have to beat a 12.
Okay, can I use Shield Master on this?
It's an
level
AoE.
reaction left.
It's an AoE.
Oh, so it don't matter, huh?
Yeah. For that,
dex
it has
save?
to be something. Yeah, dex save. You have to beat a 12. For Shield Master, it has to be an effect that's only targeting you.
Okay. Crap.
Dex. You got a 10. He did not succeed. All right. You feel this wave of electricity travel over all of you. These kind of crackling purplish bolts that burst out and hit all of you. Just this kind of fork. Both Ketis and Ango are hit just full force, so unable to kind of shrug it off. Peter, you kind of step out of the way just in time, and it still cracks against your arm, but you're not hit by the full brunt of the attack. There we go. Your investiture of stone is immediately broken, G.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. It was a DC 12. You rolled an 11 on your concentration check. You rolled a 9 plus 2.
Did you still want to make it to where that's not concentration anymore? It's your choice, but you were talking about that before.
I did, didn't I?
Or, yeah.
Because it's Arcana,
If I'm not
a
mistaken.
regular spell. Yeah, well, because it wasn't supposed to be. It wouldn't be treated like a spell since it's your Arcanum. Yeah, go ahead and put it back on. It'll still... If I take the C out, maybe it won't. All right, go ahead and put it back on, and we'll need to keep an eye out in case it gets dropped by other attacks. Oh, you know what? I did it for the other one. I just didn't do it for Investiture of Stone already. So go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and put that back on.
Mm-hmm.
So he barks us out, and these kind of purplish bolts of electricity travel through you guys. Shit. It did 24. All right. Well, so these bolts travel over them, and Ango is where he's hit square in the chest, where you kind of dodge out of the way, Peter. It bursts past your arm and hits Ango square in the chest and knocks him backward. He looks to be unconscious, knocked back.
No.
Your very best friend Ango is not looking healthy. Navarro's turn. Let me switch it to your wild shape one. There you go. You have swarmed into this amalgamation of these big white stone blocks, basically the moon, the Indris moon, the chunks of earth that you're able to kind of pull up through the floor. So you look like a giant pile of salt, like big chunks of rock salt. What are you doing?
Would these guys be considered monsters?
Yes, for simplicity's
Okay.
sake.
Alright, then I'm gonna try and charm this dude right here.
So you mean charm monster? I think that affects
Yeah.
it affects specific animal types. It'll probably be beasts at least, right?
It just says charm a creature within range.
Doesn't it specify like beasts and because humanoid, like charm person would be humanoid, but this will work for these as long as it's beasts, which I assume it does cover. What level is it?
It's a level 4.
So many fucking spells to scroll through, Jesus. Poor Fox is gonna have to learn how to do that too. All right. Yeah, it doesn't specify. Okay. So I mean, it would definitely cover beasts either way, so you'll be fine. The opposite being at least charm person, I think, is only humanoid, and maybe that one specifies that only humanoid, whereas monster would cover everything. Okay, so what are you doing?
We're gonna try and charm this guy.
He rolled a 14 versus your DC of 18 against the
Yes.
shield crab. All right, so that I hadn't given you guys the specifics of this yet, so that was a very handy choice that you just made for this reason. That shield crab has a special ability that you guys haven't tried to hit them yet so far, but basically anytime you guys try to hit any of the three of them, it is kind of blocking for them a little bit as well. So it's kind of keeping an eye on, well, one of its many eyes, kind of a arachnid style. It is kind of throwing out chunks of metal off of itself that are kind of impacting or blocking your guys' attacks. Basically, anything within 30 feet of it gets a +2 to its AC. And it was going to be doing that to raise the AC of the other two, but now if it's friendly to you guys, it'll be at least temporarily helping your guys' AC instead.
Nice. Alright, so
I'm going to make him blue for now.
And I can have him, like, attack the other ones, right?
On his turn, where was I? Just closed it. I should have left that open. If it fails, it is charmed by you until the spell ends, or your companions do anything harmful to it. Charmed creature is friendly to you. When it ends, it'll know that it was charmed by you, but that's it. It just says it's friendly to you. I would say it doesn't necessarily make it hostile to them, but I would say that it's going to... Shit, it's not supposed to get a fucking save on each turn? This is ridiculous. Alright, yeah, it doesn't specify that it's... because most charm spells, they get a new save on each turn. So, I probably shouldn't allow it, only because it's, like, these aren't really regular creatures anyways, they're hunger creatures, but I would say that whatever mind was left inside of this thing when the hunger absorbed it, that's what you're talking to, what you're kind of controlling over. And you were able to successfully get it to be hostile towards its former companions, the other hunger creatures here. Sound good?
That sounds fantastic.
All right, so you guys, all three of you, I think Ketis is slightly outside of range of it, but when it's his turn, he'll be moving anyways, presumably. So, anyways, but just remember, we'll be kind of mathing it out that you guys have an extra 2 to your AC temporarily.
And I'm gonna move over there, and I'm done.
Okay. Well, it is his turn now. He is going to clack, 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 clack with his metal claws, make his way over here to intercept the cave freak here, and is going to make 2 attacks against him. First one hits. Second one hits. They're doing 33 damage to him. And is kind of intercepting as much as he can. Like, his goal basically was to tank for the others. So, Peter's turn.
All right. Can I take a free action here, just to kind of observe these creatures to see if there's anything that I can sense about them, arcane-wise, or?
I guess how specific are you trying to be? And that'll dictate whether or not that takes, whether you'd have to spend your action to do that, or whether it would be a free action. Are you looking for something specific, or are you just trying to get an idea of, like, maybe weaknesses or what?
Yeah, just kind of finding out what the weakness is, because obviously they're some type of a, hybrid creature.
Well, they're the hunger creatures that you fought before during the Stolen Century. So basically they are the creatures that the hunger absorbed on different worlds. So that monkey one, for example, is the ape-like, the DCFs, the deranged cave freaks, that in the very first cycle of the Stolen Century were the ape-like, wolf/ape-like creatures that you saw there. You didn't see the insects, and the crabs were a creature that were on the Titusian. They're a mechanical crab. They were on the Titusian world.
Essentially the same creatures that we saw before, just
absorbed. Yeah, just absorbed by the hunger and then kind of empowered by it. So yes.
Alright, I'm going to take a look at Ango and just shake my head in disgust. This kid shouldn't have helped out. That was a bad move on his part.
Yeah, he got blasted pretty bad right at the fucking start.
Yeah, I don't really have anything that can help with him right now. If I just kind of move his body back, does that cost an action point, or...?
It would take your action to pick him up and move him. He's not dead, he's just unconscious.
Dang it. Okay. I'm going to move a little bit back here and cast a spell.
Okay.
Toki's on my shoulder still, like an idiot.
Okay.
And I don't know if you see the blue sphere I have there, the blue circle. I'm going to cast Ice Storm at a level 5 spell.
Okay.
making sure that both Ketis and the shield crab is just outside of that ice storm.
All right. Let me scroll down to it here. You also have a bajillion fucking spells in here.
Yeah, it's a level 4 spell, but I'm going to cast it at level 5.
Oh, okay. I just scrolled past it to 5 too. A hail of rock hard ice pounds the ground in a 20-foot radius, 40-foot cylinder. Centered on a point within range. Each creature in the cylinder must make a dex save. Creature takes 2d8 bludgeoning and 4d6 cold damage on a fail, or half as much on a success. Hailstones turn into an area of effect difficult terrain, which would be anyways for that radius, so we're good there. Until the end of your next turn. So, Ketis, if you move into that, that'll be difficult terrain, which with the glass it would have been anyways. Peter, you were just on the edge of it. In fact, actually, you didn't move. As long as you don't move your, more than 15 feet, then it wouldn't matter. I would just assume that you're carefully moving through it for, in relation to Nivara moving to the side there. All right. Go ahead and target the both of them then. And then click the cast so that it'll roll their saves. The DCF failed. He rolled a 5 plus 2 is 7 versus 19, so he failed. The Draconic Insect rolled a 12 plus 9 is 21. He has very high dex for a success. So it looks like the Draconic Insect will take half damage. The DCF will take the full damage. Go ahead and hit the damage on it. There we go. So this storm kind of falls down, surrounding through the hole in the ceiling. Basically, you just kind of draw in the cold of the surrounding space, the limited atmosphere on the moon here, and plummets around this column of this black tar, and the hailstones that hit it is kind of absorb into it. But those that are surrounding it smash into these creatures with this massive rocks of ice. Smacking them through the head and the side and so on. The DCF is pretty badly pelted by it, but the insect is able to kind of shrug off a lot of it just with the kind of chitinous shell around it. Leave the blue circle for me for now, and then at the end of your next turn is when it'll disappear, because that'll be the hazardous terrain for now. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay. Any bonus actions?
Nothing I can do, nope.
Okay. Ango gets to make his save here. Ooh, all right. You guys, in looking over, he rolled a natural 20. You hear him kind of murmuring, Peter, and you look over towards him. I'm going to move you into the full square here, Peter. But you look over and see him, and he starts to kind of murmur, and he shakes his head and looks around as his eyes open. He got a natural 1, so he is awake with 1 hit point. There we go. That takes his turn, because that's the end of his turn when he does that. I got to remove unconscious from him now. There we go. All right, the DCF's turn. It is going to bring both fists together and try to kind of ape-like bring them down on the crab's head, trying to club it with both fists. Which hits. For 21, and then as soon as where he kind of clubs it across, you hear this loud metal tinking sound as he smashes into it, and he reaches down and grabs this chunk of ice that Peter had just brought down, and he kind of brings it and just flings it right at the top of the crab's head. Oops, I dropped it wrong. Whoops. There we go. Which misses. It tinks off of the armored shell of the crab and just plinks off to the back. Does Toki do anything? Oh, actually, we didn't roll AC. I'll just put him on in your spot. There we go. Does Toki do anything or no?
No, he's just on the shoulder.
All right. And it is back around and to you guys in the background. Behind them, you see Jack and Drew with one arm. Jack kind of helps Drew up from the floor, and he sends out a crackling fork of lightning that blitzes through the mini-arm skeleton, causing it to jitter in place until one of the arms explodes in the shower of bones. And then off to your left, Peter, Carrie and Faith are over there fighting that hunger lion that leaps through the air and crashes down on Carrie and sends her short sword skittering across the floor. but Faith's arm cannon blasts out this beam of this blistering plasma that bores a hole straight through the center body mass of this predator. The creature roars in agony, but that wound begins to close, and you notice that the body size is shrinking dramatically with the effort, as if the material that was burned away couldn't be regrown. It is Kiedis' turn.
Okay. Alright, so, now with I got extra attack and everything, I get 5 hits per round? Or 4?
It's 4.
4. Okay. So I
But that's in melee anyways. It's still 3 if you're using Eldritch Blast, or 3 in melee.
Okay. I thought I got 4 Eldritch Blasts now.
Pretty sure it's still 3. Let me see.
Because it goes up at like 1 epic unit 17, I think.
You might be right. One beam, and then 2 at 5, 3 at, yeah, it's 4 at 17. Yeah, you're right. It's 4.
Okay. All right. First, as a bonus action, I'm going to hit the bug with Crow's Mark.
Okay.
Sure, I should put my shield up first too. Sorry, the screen's really dark. I'm having trouble seeing it for some reason.
This is like a really light one. I like that dark one, but it is too dark. Let me see. ML Ocean, maybe? How about that? That's ugly as fuck, but maybe it'll work.
Oh, no. The backgrounds are fine. I'm talking about the computer screen on the laptop. Because usually when I plug the power cord in, it usually lights up, but this time it didn't light up very well, so it's just kind of dark overall.
There'll be an icon on your F keys along the top, like F1, F2, and so on. Look for the one that's usually looks like a sun.
Okay.
Hold down the function key in the bottom left of your keyboard, the FN key, and then press that key.
Okay. Ah. Thank you.
Yep.
Now I can see. Okay. Oops. I think I did it twice on accident.
You did. Yeah, let me take the other one off.
Okay, and now before I hit it, do I still need to hit the life drinker thing, or is that fixed?
Let me see. You still do. You'll hit that for every... first, you need to roll your attack. If it hits, then you'll click that for the damage. So go ahead and roll your 4 attacks. We'll just... basically, if it's a 20, then we'll do the damage, but otherwise just roll attacks. You're going to swing 4 times, presumably?
Yeah, and then that'll add the damage modifiers correctly.
Well, no, you're just going to roll... Don't roll the damage yet. Just roll your attacks 4 times.
Okay. Well, I just mean if I do all 4 attacks like that, all 4 will have the damage modifiers. If I roll the damage all 4 times.
Don't worry about that yet. Roll an attack. If it's not a 20, roll again. Okay, roll again. Okay, one more. And one more. Alright, all 4 hit. No, sorry, 3 of them hit. The last one did not hit.
Okay.
But 3 of them hit, and none of them were natural 20s. Those were all one-handed because you have your shield up. So you're gonna hit Life Drinker, roll the damage. Hit Life Drinker, roll the damage. Hit Life Drinker, roll the damage. Actually, Life Drinker and Crow's Mark, actually, both. If I had done it earlier, I would have thought about it. I would have just put both of those in there for 1. Okay. You notice when you had brought the blade down against it, it's sinking in slightly. You're causing small chips in this kind of chitinous shell around it, but it is not doing the full damage. It's not it's resistant to slashing.
Okay.
And piercing and bludgeoning and magic. Okay. Do it again.
Hmm.
You know it's plugged in. So.
Are
you muted, G?
No, the laptop just died.
Okay, so what I'm guessing happened then is when he plugged it in, the charger is not plugged in, or at least the laptop doesn't think it is, because the screen didn't brighten, which means that it doesn't feel like it doesn't. The laptop doesn't think it's plugged in.
Oh.
Full charge.
Alright, well, let me see if it's the
Heater's
plug.
Okay. Tell Jeremy if he wants to roll the damage for me for the last two, you guys can keep going.
Okay,
Alright,
you said if you want to...
Yeah, I can hear him. I can hear him through yours just fine. Let that boot back up while
Stay where I was anyway.
everybody else is going through. Just as long as it recognizes that the laptop is powered on or is plugged in, that you can actually take the battery out completely if you needed to. But it thinks that the laptop wasn't plugged in is all. So, all right, let me roll these for him. All right. Good amount of damage to him. All right, it's the bug's turn now anyway, which he got his breath weapon back, but with Ketis kind of chopping away at his shell, is going to spin towards him and bite and claw at him. Bite hits, which of course he took half damage because of Investiture of Stone, and then the claw misses. It is Navarro's turn.
Okay, it says that his thing expired.
His what expired?
The Investiture Stone.
Oh, god damn it.
Alright.
Yeah, so it still has it on there. Okay.
I'll put it
Good
back
catch.
up.
Alright.
Thanks, Sonny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So how...
Yeah, good catch.
Alright,
I took the
so-
C off, so maybe I have to take it out of the effect. Let me look.
Perfect.
There we go.
Do we get the 2 extra AC still? Crab?
Yes, you do. And let me make sure that what those rolls were actually, because he hit you. The first one was a 25, so that wouldn't have mattered. Second one was a 13. No, no, that was a damage. Sorry. First one was a 24. The second one was a 25, so it wouldn't have been. God damn it!
Yeah.
Hang on. No, that was your attack. Hang on. First one was a 25. Oh, that was the damage that I rolled. Okay. That's why. Yeah, 25 and 23, so it still would have hit either way, even with the +2.
Yep.
Okay.
Alrighty. We are going to use light.
Oh, damn. You only rolled a 2. You rolled a 2 + 4 is a 6 versus your 18, so it failed. So you send this wave, this kind of light breeze of rotting leaves that kind of flows over the crab's head and starts to cover the fur and skin of the already exposed skin in some places of the DCF, and burns him pretty badly, actually. 33 is good damage on that thing. All right. Yep. All right. Anything else? Any bonus actions?
Oh, wait. How far is Ketis?
Remember, Ango is pretty beat up right next to you, too. He's only got 1 hit point.
Oh, shit. Alright. Well, let's do him then. Where's my healing word? Alright, so we're gonna do healing word at level 2. Because bonus actions I can do level 2, right?
Can you? I don't think it has a limitation for. So, oh, you can't. Okay, you couldn't do that anyways. So what it is basically it has to be. You can't do 2 leveled spells. It has to be one. Has to be a cantrip. You can do 1 cantrip and 1 leveled spell.
Oh, okay. Even though healing word says it's a bonus action?
Yeah, that doesn't matter whether it's bonus action or not. It's basically the. Let me find the thing for you, and I can show you what I mean. I think I put it in the primers as well, but. There we go. All right. I'll drop it in Discord for you. There you go. So basically you can do, the only time you can do more than one spell in a turn is if one is a cantrip, and you know, the other, basically you could do 2 cantrips or a cantrip and a leveled spell. You can't do 2 leveled spells.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm done.
Okay.
No.
Alright, then the crab's turn. It is going to continue mindlessly swinging its dumb metal legs at the DCF here, which hits for 16. Peter's turn.
Right.
Okay, so at the end of your turn, that circle's going to fall.
Well, not really, because I'm going to push it back just a little bit here, just the circle. I think Ketis is inside that range now, right?
He is just barely on the edge, but he walked. It's not damage. It's just difficult terrain. So at least you know what was there still. But he just stepped over it because he was only on the edge, so he didn't lose any double part of his movement because he was just in the edge.
Copied that. I'm going to go ahead and use a level 4 storm sphere, but I'm going to move the circle back so that way it doesn't hit Ketis.
Is it
Just
similarly a
one
20-foot radius?
20-foot radius, yep. And
All
then
right.
I'm going to cast that, and I'll have some bonus actions after I cast this.
Okay. 20-foot radius sphere, whirling air springs into existence. Each creature in the sphere when it appears, or that ends its turn there, succeed on a strength save or take 2d6 bludgeoning. Okay. Yeah, so you could actually do it if you're talking about the second paragraph there, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yep, lightning.
All right. You already moved it? Okay. Okay, then go ahead and target both of them.
Yep, got it.
And hit the bludgeoning part, or actually hit the cast first, so that we see if they save or not. The insect rolled an 8 + 1 is a 9, which fails, and DCF rolled a 3 + 6 is 9, which fails, so they both failed.
All right, hit damage.
Yeah, hit the bludgeoning part. You're like a weather
Just
wizard
did.
all of a sudden. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see you already had that in there. Okay. Did it only hit the insect? No, there's a DCF. I only see the damage against the insect, though.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too. Something I can do, or
Attack Storm Sphere. That's your D20. No, those were all just the attack. None of those are the damage, so I don't see the damage roll actually.
yeah, I'll hit it again. Nothing's happening.
Alright, I'll drag it over. Let's see. It's on there. You're just hitting the little lightning bolt to the left of it, right? Of the 2d6 bludgeoning?
Yep, just underneath the cast button.
Yeah, that's the right one. Okay. There, I just hit it for you. Yeah, it's rolled shitty anyways. It's 2d6 + 4, so, or 2d6 = 4 rather. So it did 4 of the, you kind of, it's not, that's only the first part of course, but anyways, you send down all of the chunks of hail, and the wind that's whipping up just kind of is bringing up those chunks and smashing them in the side of the head and so on. Go ahead and hit the lightning one, assuming that's what you're using for your bonus action.
Yeah. I'm hitting it. Nothing happening.
What is going on? Oh,
There you go.
I hit it too. Yeah, it worked for you, and then I rolled it too. All right, so we'll take the better of the two just for for benefit. All right, that's all set. And the kind of bolts of lightning just sprout out from the center of it and smash into them there. They perception checks. They probably aren't going to be making a lot of listening checks, these particular creatures, so we don't need to worry about the effect part of it. Alright. That it for your turn?
Yeah, I'm gonna move a little bit on the side here. And
Taking
then
Toki with you?
Toki's next, right?
Yep.
Is Toki able to do anything with the glass on the ground? Just kind of kick things around, or is that just not even an issue?
If you're not, you were already outside of it basically. So as long as you don't move more than 15 feet through the glass, any of the blue spots basically. Do you guys see the blue kind of blurry spots, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking of sending Toki out just to kind of pile up the glass since he's pretty much useless, so that way we clear a little bit of the glass.
Sure. I mean, if he's going to go over to, anybody in particular, or is he just in general? Because it's a big space, like he wouldn't really be able to do a lot of it all at once in 6 seconds.
I was thinking right around here, right by
Rango
and
Okay. All right. Then he kind of rushes over there and starts kind of clearing the glass as much as he can. Ango is a little bit still disoriented, but you see him kind of sit up, and he reaches into his bag, and you see him pull out this little orangish reddish vial and chug it down. It's only 10, but it's better than nothing. And then he stands up and is like carefully looking around at the glass. He kind of steps back to here, to there, and DCF's turn. DCF is going to, seeing that the crab is not, like that fight isn't doing him much good, he's going to attempt to leap. He'll take a opportunity attack from the crab, but he's going to try to leap over it towards the sand, or salt elemental. You hit the cast on it, G. That's fine. You put the effect up. You're okay.
Do I not need to hit the cast? Okay.
Not on that particular one. That's only if they, I think if it breaks or whatever it was, whatever the special impact of for the investiture is. Then you have him roll. The crab swings at him as he kind of hops up. He just kind of hunches down and using his back legs leaping over him. The crab tries to swing at him but misses as he lands back over here in front of the salt-looking elemental and is going to try to slam.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
So with my pendant, am I using the AC for me or for the earth elemental? Because if it matches my AC, I don't take damage.
What do you mean
health.
Pendant? Oh, the which effect was that?
That was the Mulligan's. No, wrong one. Miraculous health.
All right. That one's cool. Actually, so if it matches your AC, you got a 17 with this attack. What's your AC? It would be your elemental AC.
17, I believe.
Is it really?
Armor class 17.
Jeez. That's awesome.
So I get, half as much health?
Did you change the AC? Oh, we need to, let me fix that too. So that we can see that, just so for the purpose of making sure that stuff doesn't hit if it's not going to. Alright, armor is 7. There we go. So you would take half, not 18. You would take half as much
health of what the damage would have been.
Yeah, so we'll roll the damage here. Let me untarget. Yeah, I'll just roll it and then we'll just see. Because it's 3d10 plus 6, so it would have been 21, so you'll get 11 health back. Made you guys so ridiculously overpowered. All right, and he then is going to kind of grab the a chunk of hail that was off of the ground and try to club you in the head with it. He got a 28, so this one's definitely not a 17. He rolled a 19 plus 9. For 34, which you take 0 damage from? Why are you getting 0 damage from that?
Because it's on my B shape.
Oh.
You take 0 damage down. From... Huh? You drop what?
Well, it dropped the hit points on my B shape.
Oh, it's because of the temp HPs. Never mind. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. The temp HPs, it did take it off of like it was supposed to. Yeah. I was looking at the combat log basically shows damage 0 to Nivara, partially resisted to absorbed, and I was forgetting that it was because of temporary HPs. So, cool. It did it right. All right. I was thinking that your Earth Elemental's like immune to bludgeoning damage or something.
No, it's just resistant.
Yeah. All right. In the background there, you guys see Jack and Drew and Jack, they've kind of split up and have spun around on either side of this huge many-armed skeleton that they're fighting, forcing it to kind of split its attention between them. Drew wrenched a jagged piece of the ceiling frame that had fallen in from the floor and is repeatedly just wailing on this creature's left knee. And with Jack's assistance, the leg gives out. The leg splits in half. There's this kind of crack, and the leg goes out between it, out from under it. And the leg, the abomination, kind of crashes down to the floor. Carrie and Faith, the lion is kind of turning his attentions toward Faith after it's being blasted by her, and it roars in her direction. And Carrie takes that distraction to grab her glowing short sword off of the floor, and she leaps up in the creature's back and then drives the blade down between its shoulder blades, while Faith blasts it with another in the head with another of her beam arm. It is Ketis' turn.
Okay. Since the bug doesn't like, or is resistant to that, then I'll hit him with something else.
You're still hurting it. It just, it just is resistant to non-magical weapons, which yours is, so that part doesn't matter, but it's resistant to physical damage.
Okay.
And it failed. It got a 5 plus 4 is 9 versus your 19.
Okay. Sweet.
61, Jesus. That's a good roll. So you kind of just point your shield arm out towards it, and you see this hole begin to bore in its chest as this black beam that you're sending out kind of mixes with the blackness of this kind of liquid sand shape, and it burns straight through it. Similarly to the lion, you notice that where it's burned away, the creature kind of refills that hole, and it starts to heal itself essentially, but the creature itself seems smaller and smaller as it does this. Any bonus actions?
No, I'm just going to put my shield back up though, and then I'll be done.
All right. It is the insect's turn. It's going to step back, so you can get an opportunity attack if you want to use your reaction to do it. But it's going to step back away from you, just to here, not far. That misses.
Okay.
You try to swing at it, but it just clacks against the kind of metallic, almost chitinous shell of its leg.
Does it take damage from the storm?
If it moves through, does it, or is it only when it ends its turn? Isn't it when they end their turns inside of it?
I think when they're within it and their turn ends.
Yeah, his turn hasn't ended yet, but let me bring it back up. It was 4, right?
Yes, 4.
Storm Sphere. Each creature, when it appears or that ends its turn there, must make a strength save or take 2d6 bludgeoning. He hasn't ended his turn yet, but he will be, and he hasn't moved out of it. So we'll be rolling that here in just a second. It is going to similarly, though, spit another charge of that electrical beam out over into Ketis and Peter, so you guys need to make dex saves beating a 12.
Okay.
This time reverse.
That
Then
was
Peter.
awesome.
Peter gets hit by Ketis.
No.
Ketis kind of flips his shield up over the air, and the beam just deflects off of it, which kind of messes up your angle, Peter, and it just ends up just smashing you square in the shoulder. So Ketis, you'll still take half damage as it kind of reverberates through your. Oops. What'd you?
Oh, I was just laughing at Becky.
I was just seeing if there was stuff in there. I thought it was empty.
I'll take angle off because he is not within range. There we go. All right. Ketis, you saved, so that should have been half for you. Let me take off half of that. There we go. Alright. And that is it for his turn. It is to Nivara.
Oh, well, let's see, I'm gonna move 10, 15. Right there, I'm still. He doesn't get an attack, right?
You're still within range, yeah.
Right there.
In fact, actually, he should be right there.
that's perfect then. Alright, so I'm gonna hit him with a Thunder Wave
Okay.
at level 3.
Let's see here.
Try to push him back 10 feet.
Is that a lower one and you're casting it? You're upcasting? Yeah, there it is. Like level 1. It looks like. Okay. Each creature in a 15-foot cube originating from you. Well, that's kind of the space he's in, so that's perfect. You can avoid, assuming you're trying to, you can avoid hitting the crab as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. That's why I tried to move kind of sideways.
All right. Failed save takes 2d8 thunder and pushes 10 feet away from you, or half and is not pushed on a success, which he did succeed. He rolled a natural 20 plus 4, actually.
Damn.
So go ahead and roll the damage. He'll take half of it. He took 9. Okay, any bonus actions? Oh shit, the Sako, the insect, we need to roll that bludgeoning part of it again. Or at least his, if he doesn't make the strength save. So on the Storm Sphere, have him targeted and hit the cast again. With just him targeted.
I'm pulling it up now. I got 1,000 spells here.
Yeah. Any bonus actions or anything, Becky?
No.
Okay. Well, you gotta check the save first. So click the cast button first, not the damage.
Sorry about that.
You're fine. He failed anyways. You got an 8 plus 1, so we'll leave the damage on there. Okay, it is the shield crab's turn. It is going to spin around. It's kind of dumb. Maybe... Yeah, I think it probably would move around, trying to get a better mode of attack to hit the DCF here. And hits. Didn't do much damage, though. Peter's turn.
Alright, I have a question. If I cast a spell, obviously there's a cast button, the attack button, and next to it says a save with a dex number. What does that represent?
First, we need to put this Storm Sphere effect on you for your concentration. Whoops, I hit it twice. Okay, so basically, if you look at any of them that show on the cast button that show a save there, basically you're 2 parts to it. It's basically an attack. So they, depending on the spell, some of them might require just a save or an attack. Some might require both. If it's a save, though, that number is what they have to roll and beat. So the number, like if it shows DC 19, for example, then that's the number they have to beat. And then the stat that it shows, or that strength or dex or con or whatever, that's the stat that they're going to be rolling against. So it'll be using the d20 plus their strength modifier if it's strength, or their dex modifier if it's dex or whatever. Proficiency it doesn't come into factor here, but the result of that needs to beat whatever the DC number is. Does that make sense?
Copy that. Yep. So the insect hit me, so I'm a little bit upset now. I'm not okay with that. I'm going to swing over and target the deranged kid.
Okay.
And he's 25 feet. I am going to miss the crab, and I'm going to cast level 6 Disintegrate on
the DCF?
The K-Freak.
All right.
So by that, it looks like he needs to roll a DC 19 in order to dodge this.
Let's see. Disintegrate is a dex save, yeah, DC 19. Or up to 100 total damage if you rolled max damage. Before crits. A thin green ray springs from your pointing finger to target a creature you can see within range. The target can be a creature, object, blah, blah, blah. Targeted by the spell must make a dex saving throw. On a failed save, target takes 10d6 plus 40 force damage. If this damage reduces it to 0, it is disintegrated. Okay. Go ahead and are you staying where you are? Are you moving a little bit, or what's your angle here?
It looks like I'm not going to hit the crab, and I'm not going to hit Navara, so...
You've got a clean shot.
Through.
Yeah, you've got a clean shot. Yep. Okay. All right, then go ahead and hit the cast button. As long as you have him targeted, yep. He rolled a 9 plus 2 is an 11 versus a 19. He failed. Go ahead and roll the damage on it.
All right, just marking the spell slot off now. All right, damage coming up.
Okay. 81 damage. Jeez.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, I mean, the max would have been 100 because it was 10d6, which would max out at 60 plus 40 would be 100. So you got 81 out of 100. That's a pretty good roll. you see this green beam kind of just travel through him, and it just burns through this kind of liquidy shell, and starts to dry and crackle around it almost until the rest of the kind of almost oil-looking surface oil kind of fills in around it, and starts to fill in that hole, and the creature shrinks pretty dramatically. He is only about yay big now compared to where he was. He's still there. It wasn't enough to kill him. It didn't reduce him to 0, but it did a shit ton of damage. So he has about a third of his the health that he had at the start of the fight. I'll tell you that. You still have your bonus action if you want to use your storm for that, or what are you going to do?
Yeah, I can only use the lightning within that sphere or within that circle, right?
Yeah, you can't move it or anything, and it's basically just because it's a bonus. It's an effect from it. You're not recasting the spell or anything, so you don't need to use another spell slot. But basically, you can't move it or anything unless you recasted the spell.
Okay, so then I'd have to bonus action lightning the bug.
Yeah, the bug is still in it.
All right,
Bug zapper.
Target.
Okay, the bonus action part: bolt of lightning to leap from the center of the sphere. Shit, okay, so it's actually different. So you can use a bonus action on each of your turns to cause a bolt of lightning to leap from the center of the sphere toward one creature that you choose within 60 feet, meaning they don't have to be in the circle. They have to be within 60 feet of the center of the circle.
Oh, I think the deranged cave freak is within the 60-foot.
Everybody's within 60 feet, I think. You might just be barely outside of it, but the DCF is within the 60 feet.
Alright, let's go ahead and zap him in the butt.
Alright, so don't roll the damage yet. What you have to do is it has to make a ranged attack, so make a ranged spell attack, and I'll show you how to do that. You have advantage on the attack roll if the target is within the sphere. Of course it isn't, so in this case you won't be advantaged. On a hit, the target takes 4d6 lightning damage. So target the DCF, you have him where your cast button is. Don't hit the cast, hit the one to the right of that where it says attack and it says ranged plus 11. Click that attack button. There you go. 7 plus 11 is an 18, which does hit. So out of the center of that sphere, this kind of crackling lightning bolts just arcs over the crab, and it smashes the ape in the back of the and kind of in the back, basically between the shoulder blades. Go ahead and hit the lightning damage, the 46. There you go. For another 14 to him. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah, it's gonna be it.
All right. Did Toki do anything?
Still sweeping up glass.
Okay. I would say that the area around him he's been able to clear. So basically the squares that are surrounding him, yeah, if he's moving over to get more, I would say that the kind of space around him he can clear each turn. He's got a little janitorial outfit on. And
He's got a broom on the end of his tail.
Yeah, he's got a broom and like one of those little bucket things that he's sweeping shit into with his tail.
I like to think of it as a magical Roomba that he's riding on.
Yeah.
He's not doing shit. He's just sitting on the Roomba and looking very indignant. All right. Engo now kind of fully stood up and still wounded certainly, but conscious and capable of moving now. He holds out the wand that you'd kind of helped him prepare towards the DCF. You're seeing that you're trying to burn this thing down, and is going to send out a. Well, I can't use Fireball. He's going to just have to use Firebolt, the same one you usually use. Which actually misses. He rolled a 6. So goes sailing over the DCF and just kind of collapses into the wall. DCF's turn.
Ango, you're a failure as a student.
Sorry, sir. And the DCF is going to try to club the... actually, he's going to try to move away from the crab again. He doesn't like that he's kind of pinned. So he's not going to move very far. He's only going to go to here because he can't go farther than 15 to take an opportunity attack, which misses. The crab then is going to... Or the DCF is going to try to slam into the kind of salt-looking elemental. Rolls a natural 1. Unfortunately, that wouldn't work, so we'll leave that one. And that is... Oh, actually, no, he gets his rock attack still. Which hits. He got
above
a 19.
My AC?
Yeah, it was a 19, not a 17, so... for 30 damage, which you take half damage from anyways. It is...
Wait a second.
What?
Is the crab still giving 2 to the AC?
Yes, and I set that to 18, not 19. God damn it! Which makes it +2 to 18, which make it 19, which means that it fucking heals you again. Which would be 15 healing, actually, so let me fix that. Here, I'll just change your AC as well. In your elemental form, so it shows a 19 on your elemental form. Alright, it did 30, so it'll heal for... Actually, I'll just take half of... No, I gotta take it all away and then heal for 15, huh? 121, making it... Can you... I think that almost puts you above what you were. For 136, I think you rolled like 133 or something. from this asshole healing you. Alright, the surrounding what's going on here, Jack and Drew, Jack's murmured incantation seems to have frozen that skeletal monstrosity in place, and Captain Drew let loose just this on its skull with a series of these swings from this impromptu weapon. With a loud crack, though, the tar skull just splits open, sending these black shards across the floor, and the creature just stops moving. Carrie and Faith, the blast from Faith's arm burned away most of the lion's head. She yanks her blade free from the lion's back, and Carrie spins around, leading over its side, and kind of drives it into the remains of its neck. It's still moving, but it looks pretty badly wounded. It is Ketis' turn.
Okay.
You guys do remember who all those others are, right? Who those NPCs are?
I do now. It took me a minute to kind of... I forgot about, like, Faith and stuff until you mentioned it again. And Carrie.
Carrie was the
half-orc.
Yeah, that you guys met early on. She's also the one that brought Peter in. Faith was the robot that you guys met that has just like the... In fact, actually, Elsbeth and Oliver created her using the same crystal that you guys picked up at the Tutusian planet, remember? That's how they created her. They basically took her ghost out of Phandalin. She died in Phandalin and was put in there. So that's who those two are. And then, of course, you remember who Jack and Drew are. Hopefully you remember.
Alright, so... Yep. So I'm going to hit Homeboy with some Death Knells, and then I think I'm going to use my Action Surge on this turn, too.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and roll them all just for simplicity's sake. So that's 2. There's 3, no crit so far. And your 4th, also no crit. Okay,
Dang.
go ahead and go ahead and roll your damage on them.
Okay.
Are you going to Action Surge and do 8 fucking blasts of Death Knell? Is that what you're going to do?
I'm not sure yet. I'm going to use something else, though.
Alright.
Hang on. Cross mark. There it is.
You guys haven't burned too much of your big guns or anything, but you have been marking off your spells, right? Your spell slots?
Yeah.
Yep.
You've used more than 2 spells, haven't you, Sako? I see a 5th and a 6th marked off.
I used 2 spells so far. I used the sphere and a sphere. Or, sorry, the sphere and the...
You used 3.
Oh, yeah, I need a level 4. That's right, I gotta put a level 4.
Yeah, because your storm, either your storm or your, like, the thing that did the ice storm thing, that one.
Yeah,
so I think
it was a 4,
missing
5,
one.
6.
Okay. All right, so the bug that has just been getting pelted by these is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking with each of these blasts of Death Knell that you see keep sending through it. And you see, like, it keeps reconstituting the parts that you're breaking off of it, but it keeps getting smaller and smaller until the last one smashes through its head, and the head just kind of collapses inside. And then it's trying to reform, and it's slowly moving, and it stops. The form of it stops reforming its shape, and it begins to kind of melt into this puddle of the black liquid just kind of on the floor there. It's not moving anymore, and is no longer in the shape of a bee. What are you doing?
Sweet. Alright, then. I guess it's DCF's turn, then.
Okay. And it is not looking good either.
Horse.
Yeah.
What was that, Sako?
The horse-sized
I didn't hear
insect.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so I'm actually going to hit that son of a bitch with light.
Okay. Yeah, you can see... Oh, we actually had to... No, I guess the storm is still up. You leave the storm up for how long, G? Or Sako? 1 minute? Okay, still plenty of time. As long as you don't lose your concentration. So.
Yeah.
Okay. He failed his save. He rolled an 11 plus 4 is 15, so did not succeed.
Okay.
Jesus, 49. He's definitely not looking good. He's still alive, but even more of it is kind of burning away as these leaves settle on its skin, and it's having trouble reconstituting that form.
And that is it. There we go. Okay.
Get him small enough so Toki has a friend.
Really?
Yeah. Toki can finish him off.
Alright.
Move it to your wild shape. There you go.
And we're gonna hit him again with a Thunder Wave.
Okay. He failed. 5 plus 4 is a 9.
Yes. So there, and then he's pushed back 10 feet.
All right. So this kind of exhausting boom that just fills this whole room here, as he's thrown back near the edge of the storm there. Any bonus actions or anything?
No.
Okay. The shield crab is still, I guess he can't really do much else. He's going to try to swing at him again, and oh, he hits actually. He rolled really low, but it's still a hit. All right, it is Peter's turn.
All right, I see Toki's eyeballing the DCF. He sees him as an epic mount, but I'm going to see if I can take him out right now.
He's definitely purple, that's for sure.
All right, so I just cleared the crab.
Okay.
He's 30 feet away. I'm going to cast one firebolt at the DCF.
Okay. And it hits. Also,
Wait,
you get more than one anyway.
yeah.
No, you rolled it twice, but I think, don't you get multiple casts of Firebolt at higher levels?
Yeah, after 17 it should be like a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, let's see here. Oh, no, the spell damage is increased. That's what it does. So it's one bolt, which both your rolls hit anyway, so it's fine. It just does 4d10 damage instead of... Let's make sure that's leveled correctly. Yeah, it's 4d10. Okay. Different spells do different things. Some of them are multiple attacks, like Eldritch Blast, versus one attack with higher damage, like Firebolt.
So
Okay,
I
go
got
and roll your damage.
4d10, right?
Well, if you hit the damage on Firebolt, it'll do it. It'll show 4d10 there.
Gotcha, my bad.
All good. For 26. He is quite badly burned. He's not looking too good. Toki continuing to clean.
Actually, Toki's super excited. He sees that the DCF's small enough to ride now. But as a bonus action, lightning's going to hit him in the back.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Make the ranged attack. So click just the attack button where it says range plus 11. When you have him
Gotta go
targeted.
through my spells here.
Yeah.
Alright, got it.
Okay, and... Oh, that was the damage, though. You gotta roll the attack first.
The attack or the cast? The attack, right?
No, not the cast. Specifically the attack button, the one that says ranged plus 11. There you go. Which does hit anyway, so we'll leave the damage on there. Another lightning bolt smashes him in the back. Ango, he sees the situation is looks like it's coming to a conclusion here, so he's going to try to drink another potion here. He's still beat up, and you guys don't care about healing him, even though he's your very best friend.
Token's gonna run for him.
I've got bunches.
What'd you say?
I said Toki's making a run for him. He wants to jump
Okay.
on his back.
And I've got a bunch of stuff to bring people back. As long as they haven't been dead more than 200 years, we're good.
Yeah, so as long as he doesn't have his own stolen century of being dead for 200 years somehow.
Yeah.
All right, the DCF's turn. Hang on. I don't know. Give me one sec, guys. I heard a loud beep, like my fire alarm was going, or the smoke detector, but it's not beeping anymore, so I'm sure it's fine. But let me go check it real quick. Be right back. Alright, it's fine. Do you, like, it wasn't in the headset, right? Did one of you guys beep?
Nah, it sounded like a
No.
APC beep or something in the background.
Yeah, okay, you did hear it too then?
Yeah.
Alright. Okay. He is, I guess, going to try to club just... Yeah, I think he's just going to try to club at the shield crab here. That was a good pick on choosing the crab out of the whole group as the one you decided to try to charm.
I figured he was closest, so.
Okay, I just heard it again. Did you hear that, Sako?
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like an APC beat.
I don't have one in here, though. Alright. But he hit, did 21 damage. Alright. Jack and Drew, having finished off the skeleton, kind of come rushing around the pillar from the other side there, and seeing this fight kind of happening between these two. They seem, not confused, but are kind of assessing the situation. Jack yells over to you, Nivar. Well, you can't talk. He yells over to you. You won't be able to reply. But what's going on here? Like, what should we hit? Or what do we do? Drew's over near you. Huh?
Can I just point at the cave freak?
Sure. Yeah. All right, so he will lightning bolt him with a natural 1, so he does not hit. In the angle he's at, he wouldn't have hit anybody else, so nothing there. Drew is over by you, Ketis. Says, what's going on? What do we do?
Hit the ape. Crab's with us for now.
Okay. He won't be able to... I don't have his tokens on here, but he won't be able to make it that far anyways, because he was coming from the other side, so... you see Carrie and Faith are still trying to finish off the line. The line doesn't look very healthy anymore. That she wrenched her blade free from it, and Faith's continuing to try to blast it. Drew does shout over to you. He says, "What are we going to do with the crab then?" That's it for his turn. It's your turn.
Make him jump back down the hole or something.
It's not a hole. It's actually a pillar. It's filling the hole. It's up to the ceiling. Well, what was the ceiling? It crashed through the glass dome.
Just have Peter turn into stone again like we did last time.
I don't know if that would work on the hunger. It would probably just absorb the stone, I would think.
Yeah. I'm technically not in the thing, right? I'm next to the...
No, you're outside of it, yeah. I would just assume that you walked around the edge of the kind of swirling storm there.
Yeah. See if I can hit this cave freak.
You rolled a natural 20. Okay. The effect is, it says wish. Yeah, we're not doing that. Literally, it's a 195 out of a 200, and the effect is a wish. It says you may ask the DM to grant you a wish. The DM discretion not too outrageous. You're not getting a wish. for a natural 20, you're not getting a fucking wish spell. A wish is like world bending.
Oh, well, I was going to say we could get him out for Donkey.
Seriously.
Dogs.
Right, go ahead and roll your damage.
Okay.
Well, Toki can ride the crab.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
Drew shouts over to you, Toby. He says, "We're gonna have to kill that thing too. I mean, we can't. Even if it's friendly, it won't stay that way." And actually, now's potentially your time, because you bring your blade down over this kind of shrinking monkey, and the head kind of slops off to the side, and it starts trying to grow another head out of its neck, and it kind of gets about halfway or so. You see the beginning of the jaw, but it stops, and the outside of it starts to turn almost an ashy texture. And it looks like it's losing its ability to reconstitute itself. It stops moving.
Okay. I'm assuming since that thing is dead, then I can't do the rest of my hits, right? Because it would have to be on the same target.
Yeah, your attacks would have to. You still have your bonus action, but you can't. No, your attack. No, you can. You can. Your attack action means you have to use all of them to swing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be all against the same target.
Okay, because, I mean, you assume we're going to have to kill off the crab anyway, so...
Well, Drew told you that. It's up to you what you want to do.
Alright, well, for now, I'm going to just wait and see what the team says, so I'm just going to put my shield up and just skip the rest of my turn. So...
Okay, you're just kind of turning to face the crab in case it, goes aggressive.
Yeah, I get ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Navarro's turn.
Ask the team what they want to do with it.
Oh, well, I can't talk to you guys, so...
Oh.
Yeah, Jack is shouting to you.
I'm a rock.
Yeah, she's a big old pile of what looks like salt. But Jack is shouting to you. He says, we need to kill it.
Alright, it's the last one left, so 5...
Just position ourselves up.
15,
It's still friendly right now until you guys attack it. That's the charm. The charm monster says that as long as you don't attack it, then it stays friendly.
Yeah, but it's only friendly for an hour.
Yeah.
Is there
Assuming you don't
nothing
lose
else
your
that's coming out of the
concentration.
pillar? It's not a concentration
Not so far.
spell.
Oh shit! Never mind. So it's just friendly for an hour or until you hit then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so we still got a couple minutes to just hang out. Got to
Becky's getting all tactical now.
Yeah.
Right.
With her bajillion druid spells.
Alright, so there's no other guys coming in at all?
Not so far. Not that you've seen so far.
So we tried pushing the crab back into the pillar.
Can I can't talk to the crab, can I?
No.
That's not how charm works.
No. It's just friendly to you. It's not it doesn't do anything as far as communication. It just sees you as a friend.
So if I use, where is it? Or speak with animals. So if I use speak with animals, if I drop my B shape and do speak with animals, could I possibly talk to it then?
You can try.
Alright, I'll give it a shot.
Okay. So you are reverting out of your wild shape then?
Yeah, because I can't talk as an elemental, can I?
No.
Even with...
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that you can.
No. I'd have to verbally communicate.
Stop. Sorry, dogs are fighting a little loud. Well, not fighting, I'm just playing, but... Alright. Then, I'm going to go ahead and leave your wild shape in the combat tracker in case you use it again later. But we will drop off the form. Oh, I didn't realize they were vulnerable to thunder. That's handy. Alright, there we go. So you revert back to your barely wounded Nivara shape. And that's... You're not casting it as a ritual, I assume, right?
No, because that takes like an hour, right?
I think it's 10 minutes, but presumably you're just I just want to make sure you're marking off your spell slot. Soccer, you didn't mark off your spell slot for your...
That was a cantrip.
You did, yeah, for Firebolt, that's right. And then your Disintegration was your 6th level that you used, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, you
6
already
was
marked that off, didn't you?
disintegration, 5 was the ice, and then the storm was 4.
Cool, okay. Alright, so you reach out to try to communicate with this crab shape, and there's definitely something in there, but what you're hearing back is unintelligible. First, keep in mind that it's not really a crab. You're trying to communicate with something in there that almost feels animalistic, but it was a mechanical creature. That it itself was a, remember, it was a machine, but that machine held a soul of some kind. Remember, that's what those crystals were doing. Remember, this came from the Cartesian world. So there's something in there that seems almost animalistic, but communicating, I guess, what are you trying to say to it? There's definitely something in there. It's just a matter of how intelligent it is and how much the hunger has ruined it.
I'm just suggesting that it goes back in the pillar.
Okay.
And leaves.
Okay. You know what? You can tell it that. Whether or not it understands is going to be dependent on a roll for you. So make a persuasion check. And I would say because of the oddity of it hearing a pleasant voice rather than the voices of the hunger, essentially, I would say roll it with advantage too. So we'll go ahead and roll it one more time.
Oh, okay.
Assuming that you're being nice and not saying, hey Dick, go back into the thing there.
Yeah, no.
Okay. You send out this kind of, these happy hippie vibes, trying to positively tell it these nice things, and it's clicking and clacking and kind of moving in place, and you see it rotate directly towards Ketis and move towards Ketis. Ketis, what are you doing?
I'm gonna step out of the way.
All right. It steps square over you, and it's not tall enough to quite make it, so you basically have to crouch down and get out of the way, and it kind of crawls its way in towards the center of the pillar. While this is happening, Ango shouts at you, specifically Navarre. He says, Miss Navarre, your book is on fire.
What?
You look down at your hip, and the tome that you have kind of in that special carrying pouch is literally on fire.
Can I pat it out? Is it magical fire? It just spontaneously combusted.
That's what it seems like, because you didn't do it and nothing else caught you on fire, as far as you know. You reach down and grab it though, and kind of yank it out, and it's burning in your hands, it's immediately burning you.
Ah, damn it! All right, drop it. Try to stomp it out.
All right. When you throw it on the floor, and bring your foot down, about to bring it down over top of it, it's essentially like a bomb goes off. Whoops. God damn it, some of these volume levels are so wrong. Just that this kind of explosion just blasts your foot away. You are flung probably 15 feet back. It's enough that Peter and Ketis and Ango are all kind of having to kind of hold your hands up for a second because the glass that's exploding off of the floor just sends shards everywhere. But this massive sonic explosion, this wave of force that just tears through the room, Navarro, you're knocked like horizontally flying backwards through the air. And then as you're kind of thrown through the air, again, this is somewhat through Peter's divinations, we see the past. We see Yorith. And she's lying down on the side of a grassy hill, watching the clouds pass slowly overhead. And in the distance, in the valley below, there's this furious battle raging. And Yorith knows that it's just a matter of time before it's brought to an immediate end. And so she sits up, and she anxiously watches the conclusion as this pillar of flame from the Firestorm cloak just consumes the final few living combatants of this battle, leaving a perfect circle of black glass burned into the ground. And she sighs. She starts trekking down the hillside towards this battle to reclaim her creation, swearing that this would be the last time that would ever be used. And then several days later, she's walking through these dusty hallways of an abandoned mansion, and she's accompanied by this shady-looking dwarf, who's the apparent owner of this building. Yorith had heard of a vault in this mansion, and so she sought to buy it to help hide the Firestorm cloak away in a place where it would be in this middle of this big city, where it could be pursued but never obtained. And so she went out here in efforts to try to buy this, basically, to hide it away, but she underestimated the thrall of her relic. And so as that vault door is slowly swinging open, Yorith feels this cold steel dagger slash across her back, and she feels two deft hands snatch the cloak from her possession. And she recovers and knocks the dwarf away with an arcane tether, but it's just too late. The dwarf that's holding the cloak has slammed the door behind him, and she's blasted the door in a fury, trying to get herself out, but immediately she understood the gravity of her wound. His blade was coated in barrow nettle poison, and she collapses into the only furniture in this room, the simple wooden chair, and pulls her spellbook tome into her lap, flipping through the most powerful-sounding spells that she could find, thinking that as soon as her corporeal form dies from this poison, she would float her lich form through the doorway and just obliterate this little asshole. But as her lich form leaves her body, the true cost of what she had done is revealed. See, her tome, the capture charms that she's filled it with, they consume the power of defeated magical creatures, and Yorith's lich form was just pure arcane power. And so the tome immediately responds to her ghostly appearance, and it just inverts and just swallows her whole. And when when her senses return to her, she's found herself in this small chamber lined with rich black curtains, and just opulent pillows and small lamps, and it's a very comfortable place, and she wasn't afraid because she didn't know how to be. But for the years that she's stuck inside this place, she just fights for consciousness. Her faculties begin to return to her one by one. She could see and then feel and then hear, and eventually even extend those senses out to the world outside, but she could find no escape from the tome. And so she waited with a patience that she had no choice but to learn. And then, a decade later, she hears her sister's voice, and her dearest friends. She felt Ketis' grasp on the tome, but that wouldn't do, sorry. But she needed Nivara. And she screamed and she desperately tried to signal you, but it took everything within her to just feel your presence outside. But now she had a goal. She would meditate for months, channeling her energy into a single spell, something that she could use to cast at the most opportune time to let you know that she was okay. She stored up for months to signal you, clear as day, burning her name into the wall of Peter's library. And she felt your pain in Wonderland and when you lost that eye and the memory of your adopted sisters. And she seethed in these black curtained place and where you see her now. She's just anxiously pacing, tearing at the walls, trying to find a way to break out, to save you from the torment there. But still she couldn't find any relief. And then outside, this is still some time ago, in Wonderland, she hears that fight. And moments later she has company. That Fey spirit Edward, proprietor of Wonderland, was absorbed by your tome in there. And he drops into the chamber and he scrambles up to his knees and he says, who are you? And Yorith says, are you the one that's been hurting my sister out there? And he kind of mumbles something and she says, I'm gonna fucking kill you now. And from where Nivara was thrown, back in this room here, we see a cloud of pink, sparkly smoke billowing out from the tome, starting to gather and encircle this liquid sand tendril in the center of the room. And you see these fireworks of these wild orange and pink and yellow flares combusting with this fiery mass, just pouring out from the book and surrounding this pillar, just filling this tendril with this white-hot light. And then there's an explosion that tears through the room, climbing up the tendril and up and up and up into the heavens, but you feel the heat from the power, or the heat and the power rather of that explosion just weave masterfully around you, leaving all of you completely safe and unharmed. But as the remaining hunger creature, the crab there, and what was left of the lion there, just consuming all of them. And when the light fades, the column and these shadowy beings that they climbed out of it are gone. Where's my spot? But bits of kind of black tar splattered all over the walls in all directions, and then hovering where that column once stood is Yorith, just phantasmal and resplendent, her arms, her outstretched palms still coated in roiling flames. And as this lich turns towards you, Nivara, with the widest smile you've never forgotten, you hear your sister's voice say, "About damn time." And there it is. She says, "I knew you'd figure it out eventually." What are you guys doing?
What exactly did I figure out? I just threw the book. It was on fire.
I mean, I kind of thought you knew I was in there, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but I didn't know how to get you out.
Well, I mean, we're all here now. I think it all worked. Maybe it took you a little longer. Kind of thought you were a little smarter. Jack kind of interrupts. He says, I knew I'd see you again. I'm gonna blow myself up just so I can be a lich with you. Hold on." And she says, "Don't blow yourself up, dummy. I'm sure your fragile body's gonna get killed by the hunger soon enough anyway." The pillar has exploded. I went ahead and closed the map just because I don't have a version of the map that doesn't have that in there. But with that pillar gone now, you see Elspeth is still there inside of her globe. Basically, the pillar was surrounding her, but the shield that she had put up around it was kind of protecting her from the hunger's pillar. And she is just basically back where she was. And she's kind of looking out, and her eyes go wide when she sees Yorith. She says, I looked for you for so long. I'm so sorry." And Yorith replies, she says, "I mean, no sweat. I was stuck in a book. I can't fault you for not looking there." She says, "But now, Ellie, I'm gonna need you to please to stop conjuring up that shield, all right? Because it's kind of be the end of the fucking world if you put that thing up." And she says, "Look, I'm happy you're back, but I can't. I mean, there's nothing you can say that's going to make me stop. I'm going to save us all, I promise." And with that, the bubble that was surrounding her goes completely opaque, and then it flashes, and then she's gone. What do you guys do?
Did it look like she left another... like she went to another plane?
Make an Arcana check. Peter, you can do the same if you want.
Because if she did, I probably would have tried planar binding to keep her there.
I would tell you that Nivara and actually both of you, Nivara and Peter, make an insight check. Insight wouldn't be quite right. Maybe flat intelligence checks, both of you. Nivara in particular, of course, you were a little bit closer than Peter was at the time when you saw it. She definitely teleported herself somewhere, but it didn't leave behind the residual trail that shows you that it was to a different plane. It was still in the prime material somewhere, you just don't necessarily know where. But secondly, I would say that Peter, you'd probably have an advantage on this because you would have more understanding of how this might work, so go ahead and roll your intelligence check again. Nivara, you would have still kind of guessed this much anyways, but whether or not Peter knows it, just in case. Yeah, it's better. You both kind of gather, though, that you already knew what the shield does and how it was supposed to work, and that it was basically blocking out access to the outer realm of any planes that are not the prime material. It would functionally act as if an anti-magic shield by then anyways, meaning that if the shield was full around her, casting a spell through it would be nothing. That's basically the same reason the hunger couldn't get through the shield is the same reason that Racondatus couldn't get through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So planar binding probably wouldn't work, or kind of cast a spell through that shield would not work. Is what you would guess essentially, anyways. What's Ketis doing?
Look around and make sure there's nothing else. No other hunger creatures running around.
When Yorith exploded, she blasted all of the bits of the black sand that was in this, or basically everything that came out of this tendril, which is, so as far as you know right now, the only ones left right here were the ones that came out of that tendril, and she blew them all up. What was left of it, anyways. But Drew, who is standing right beside you, he says, "Fuck," looking where she was, because he was trying to get her to tell him where the ship was, and before the pillar came down. He says, "All right, okay, gang, listen up. Look, I know I've been kind of running on sort of a limited capacity for a while, but just kind of saying my name and all. But look, I'm still your captain, so if you'll listen to me, I think I can get us out of this."
Okay.
Listening.
Jack and Yorith are just kind of, they're paying attention, but basically just kind of, a big hug. And he starts kind of barking out commands, not in an aggressive way, but in a, let's do what we can here kind of a way. He says, "Carrie, Faith, you guys go pick up Rodalt, and you're in charge of securing the college headquarters. We lose this base and we lose it all. Can you do that?" And Carrie nods at him. He says, "Ango, you're with me. You're going to help me figure out where Madam Director hid the ship. Everybody else come with me quick." Meaning the rest of you guys. You all go with him?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he rushes you briskly between you guys. Like Yorith just kind of points her hand towards the debris that Ango had fit into the doorway and just blasts it out in this kind of wide explosion where they're all floating in the air. So all the chairs and a small partition wall, things like that, are just blasted away from it in this kind of explosion where they're just frozen in midair. And you guys walk through, and then as soon as you're through it, she kind of brings it right back down and covers the doorway again. She says, "In case we got to go back in there, I don't want to go back in there to fight our way through." And you guys go kind of walking around this hallway, just right around to the other side where Elsbeth's private quarters are, where Drew kind of leads you there. In fact, this is where Navarre and Peter had just been just a few minutes ago. It seems like years ago, of course, but just a few minutes ago you guys were in there where the baby Dellen's cap still floats in its little tank. And Drew kind of clumsily picks up that tank and he hands it to you, Navarre. And the baby immediately starts tendriling on the side of it and kind of pulling itself up like an octopus almost up over the outside of the tank, and immediately wraps its tendrils around your arm, around your wrist and your arm, and it lifts itself up until it's kind of cradled in your arm out of the tank, and it's kind of shivering like it's scared.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks down at the baby Dellen's cap, and he says, "Guys, look, there's no easy way to say this. You have to find some way to disable this little guy and Cetus's memory-altering fields. And if you can't, you're going to have to terminate him." And he's, about to say terminate, and the baby's just shivering like it's scared. He reacts to that, and you're just kind of looking down at the jellyfish there. He says, "I mean, you're going to have to find a way to do it, to disable it somehow. The world's under attack right now, and nobody out there can see what's attacking them. So every second that these two are still making the world forget is a second where just thousands of people are dying at the hands of an enemy they can't see." And he says the Dellen's cap field reaches across all this reality. So if there's any way to do it, just hide it something. Just take the three of you, take the baby, go to Cetus. Actually, sorry, he says 5 of you, I guess, because it'd be Jack and Yorith as well. Take the baby, go to Cetus, and maybe you can talk to him. I don't know, but talk to him, convince him somehow. There's so much devastation happening right now that it's only fair that we give it a fighting chance, okay?
Because on the other planet, Cetus was able to project stuff, right?
Okay,
like the music and stuff from the planet he was originally from?
Yes.
Or where we got him?
Okay, I'm surprised you remembered that, actually. Well, not surprised. I'm glad you remembered that. But I hadn't brought it up in a while. The Dellen's cap have kind of an intake and an outtake, essentially. And I'm proud a little bit even that you remembered that, because I didn't make a big point of it. But yeah, they basically take stuff in, and then if they liked it, they broadcast it out. You guys all, Ben and Soccer, you guys remember that?
We're doing the art.
Yeah, so exactly, when you guys were did your art for it, if it liked it, it broadcasted out, and then the whole world knew about it, remember?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, but Drew doesn't mention that. I'm glad that that you remembered that, Becky, and that Navarre is thinking of that, of course. But that's basically what he's saying. He's saying because that's not top of mind for him. He's saying basically you'll have to kill them or something, but convince them to let the world remember or know what these creatures are so that they can see them, so they're not being erased, that the hunger isn't being forgotten, essentially. And with that, Ango and Drew peel off to start kind of turning over Elizabeth's office, just throwing everything in all directions, looking for clues to where she hid the shoes, while the rest of you kind of clear away the barricade in front of the door, the blocking that she could put there, and then kind of make your way out. So it's relatively quiet outside. It actually looks like Yorith's explosion wiped out most of the Hunger's creatures that were up here. But for now, anyways, you're outside and you're fully inoculated. You can see the devastation on the planet below. There's just, every few miles even, you're seeing kind of smoke rising up from the surface. And in the distance, you see the capital city of Mist, and there's already a mile-wide column of smoke that's just rising up from that. There's dozens of those tendrils that are snaking down from the sky that have stabbed into the heavens, or stabbed into the surface from the heavens, just in every direction. And as far as you can see on the surface there, you see hordes of those just massive dead black behemoths that are kind of scouring the surface, marching towards the larger cities and the settlements. In fact, actually, I have a VA for you guys. I forgot I had that one here. There we go. And as you're surveying these kind of horrible scenes on the surface, you hear Jack say, "Oh, shit." And he kind of points off into the distance, and you see more of those tendrils that are dripping out of the sky to crash into the moon around you. And Jack looks over his shoulder towards the rest of you guys, and he says, well, guys, it looks like court's in session. And miles to the north and the southeast, all directions, basically, you see them all around you. In all four directions, rather, you see where the pillars have crashed into the moon, almost at the horizon in each direction from you. You see walking out of them these gargantuan creatures, the four judges that you guys had been sentenced to imprisonment in stone when you were absorbed by when they were absorbed by the Hunger, which was 40-something years ago in the 65th cycle. You guys remember them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, each one coming from each direction. These tower 20-plus stories tall, emerging from these tendrils here on the moon. And their featureless forms are now comprised of that black shimmering liquid sand, and they're all marching slowly, ever so slowly, towards the college headquarters where you guys are. But you see Yorith is not staring at the judges. She's actually still looking down at the planet, kind of ignoring Jack through that. And she's kind of smiling, and she says, hey guys, come here. And you look down towards the surface, and she's still smiling. You see that perfect circle of black glass that used to be Phandalin. And she says, I've got a plan. She says, I think I know how we can get some reinforcements and turn this this whole thing around. You trust me?
Let's do it.
Yes.
She says, all right. She's kind of looking amongst the whole group of you guys. She says, Peter, I think I'm going to need your help. I mean, you think you can get us down there near that disc that used to be Phandalin?
Yeah, I've got a spell we can do.
She kind of nods. She's like, I figured you would. Ketis, Sis, you guys keep going up to that jellyfish. See if you can get him to stop his forgetting trick. Jack, Peter, you guys are with me. And Jack shrugs. He says, you heard the lady.
As a backup, guys, hit up Fantasy Costco, see if they have a large ninja blender up there, too.
Could make some hunger shakes.
Gotta feed that hunger.
Alright, so, Peter, are you teleporting them down?
Yeah, I think I can teleport 7 at a time, I think.
Okay. Go ahead and mark it off.
I'm looking for that spell now.
I think it's, that sounds right. But you're with that cast, though. Peter, Jack, and Yorith kind of blue flash out of sight. Ketis and Ivar, you guys finish trekking across the Arboretum and make it to the elevator dome that leads to the Delvin's Cap chamber. And you're relieved to find that the elevator's still working. You see that the elevator doors slide open, and the arcane lights inside the elevator are flickering a lot, but it seems like the elevator still is fully operational. You get on, the door's closed. You begin your long ascent. About halfway up the span of the trip down, or the trip upwards, though, rather, those flickering of the light starts to grow more erratic, and then the smooth jazz music that was playing is growing more and more distorted, and finally that music cuts out completely, and that black, the lights go black for a couple of seconds, and you both feel a malicious presence in this elevator with you, and then the lights come back on, and Navarra, you don't see Ketis anymore. He's just gone. And the elevator starts moving again. And Ketis, you don't see Navarra anymore either. In fact, you don't see the elevator. What you see is a small round table made of smooth black marble and these 2 high-backed leather chairs positioned on either side of it. And on the center of that table is a chessboard. You don't seem to be standing in any kind of discernible room. As far as you can tell, the walls are just this rippling walls of the same black sand material that makes up the hunger. And sitting, it's beside the chair, you see Odim. But he's a bit different. When you parlay with him in the past, he was essentially a human man, but now his skin is torn and cracked with rifts of this black liquid that's kind of tearing through his face and his skin. And there's almost an unbearable heat coming off of him. He pulls out the chair on his side and he says, "Hey, Ketis, you got a minute?"
Why not?
Right, and we will come back to both Ketis and Peter in a bit. The 3 of you are kind of split up at the moment here. So for now, we will continue with Navarra's trip in the elevator. God damn, this one's fucking super quiet. Navarra, the baby jellyfish that's crawled around your arm. The elevator has reached the top and the doors open to that glue-blowing nebula in space. This chamber is just completely silent. It's unoccupied. Usually there's a row of guards here, and of course they're not here. And you take that long walk that feels like it takes forever as you approach the Dellen's Caps area where the tanks are, and you see the faint glow of his tank and the bodies of a few of those creatures, the shadowy creatures, the chaos creatures, lying motionless on the ground. And you see the body of poor Sebastian, who is dead. He's laying there still. You didn't know he was dead, of course. Ketis did, but you probably didn't have time to tell her, by the way, G. So you see Sebastian laying there dead. And that you remember who he's, right? That musician, the melancholy guy?
Yeah.
Okay. There's torn and slashed chunks of wood strewn everywhere. And eventually, as you're walking along, you find a wooden head, and you recognize that it's the face of the wooden mannequin that Ketis was embodying before, just torn apart. Specifically, inanimate, obviously mixed amongst all these dead chaos creatures. And while you look down at the lot of them, you finally make it to the tank and around to the side of the tank there, and you see that Cetus is not in it anymore. He's sprawled across the floor not far away, just mangled. He doesn't look good. Several of his tendrils are severed and on the ground. Some of them are coiled around the throats of those dead shadows. And there's a few large cuts going up the jelly cap, and it's kind of just oozing this star material. Looks like space glowing out of it, and it looks like it's breathing. It's actually like it's breathing is labored, basically. He's still alive, but not for long, it seems. What are you doing?
I'm gonna go over and try to use healing word on him. Hopefully it'll work.
Okay. As you approach, as you're making your way over towards it, the jellyfish in your arms is like trembling. It obviously recognizes, you don't know where the eyes are, but it sees what's happening. You do notice, by the way, that one of its tendrils is on Sebastian's body, and it keeps kind of patting Sebastian's body in the back, like it's trying to wake him up. To one of the longer, the Cetus's tendrils. And as you get closer to it, Cetus hums weakly. Usually it has that kind of whale song sound, but it's just not powerful enough or strong enough, or maybe because he's out of the water, you don't know. But the baby jellyfish is responding to its hum, and it's kind of it's lighting up brightly, far more energetic from the baby, and the baby tries to float out of your arms towards it. Do you let it go?
Yeah.
All right. He looks kind of scared, almost like he's still shivering a little bit, and he's kind of like hanging back. He kind of floats over towards it, but he's like keeps kind of like starting to put a tendril out, and then brings it back, like he won't touch him. He's not touching Cetus. You try to finish the incantation to heal him, and it floats like you feel the force kind of float towards him to begin to heal this creature, but nothing's happening. It doesn't seem like maybe it doesn't work. You don't know. You've never tried to heal him before, but it doesn't seem like it's either. If it is touching him, it's not working. Either way.
Okay. Now the way we talked before was he put that like spike thing in my forehead, right?
Yeah. He brought a tendril up. You were in the water at the time, but it brought a tendril up. The ends of it split open. Like into 4 fingers essentially, and there's a little like claw type thing in the center of it, basically like a beak.
Alright, then I guess I'll just grab one of his tendrils and just kind of hold it up to my forehead, see if he'll poke it in there.
Okay. where you bring it up, you feel the end of the tendril, like there's still strength in there, but it's fading fast. And it starts to split open, but it's like he can't even get the tendrils out enough to get them wrapped around, because it has to wrap it around your head, or at least to get close enough to get the claw talon beak type thing in. And it seems like he's trying, but he kind of there's more humming from him, and then these kind of slow pulses of the glow of the kind of nebula in its head. Like he's trying, he just doesn't have the strength in him to be able to do it. And the baby is kind of floating near him still. And Cetus doesn't have the kind of exuberant energy, but it is just it's clear. You can sense, just innately, you can sense that this natural creature is just overjoyed to be reunited with its child. Remember that when you learned before that it had a child, this is the first reunion that it has had since. Elspeth took the baby away, remember? But the baby is obviously very happy, just very scared at the same time. So where it's trying to show this kind of exuberant response, it just doesn't have the strength to do it. But it lifts up one of its tendrils and kind of wraps it around the baby, and sort of kind of pulls it in towards itself. It's almost bringing it up underneath the jelly cap, so like he's kind of half underneath where you can't see him anymore, up against its body. And when it does that, the baby seems like it's not scared anymore, and it's kind of humming its little song. What are you doing?
I guess just try to talk to him, tell him that we need him to let everybody see the hunger, because otherwise everybody's gonna die.
Okay.
Because they can't fight what they can't see.
Okay. Make... I don't even know if it'd be memory. I guess for lack of a better one, make a memory check, but make it with advantage.
Wow, really?
You're trying to talk to it, and it doesn't seem like it's necessarily understanding exactly what you're meaning by that. Like it doesn't understand. It doesn't know what you're asking it to do. But you do see that it is pushing where it was patting Sebastian's back previously, like trying to wake him up, like, hey, get up. It's like kind of nudging him now, like it's getting more and more adamant about trying to get Sebastian to move. Basically, like in that moment, you don't know necessarily if Cetus knows that Sebastian is dead. You're sure he's dead, like not unconscious, he's dead. But it's like Cetus is trying to signal you, maybe, like what it needs, like what Sebastian did for it for so many years.
Okay, so like there isn't really a place to put it in the tank. But
well,
okay,
the baby
so I guess...
the baby uncoils itself. Like it immediately understands. Like they can obviously communicate a lot easier than you can with them. So the baby kind of uncoils itself, and it sees this response, and it goes over. It floats over probably as fast as you've ever seen it move so far. You haven't had a lot of time with it, of course, but it floats over very rapidly to Sebastian, and has kind of wrapped its tendrils around the side of Sebastian's head and is trying to drag Sebastian, as if that you clearly get that this is an action of a child that doesn't understand exactly what's going to like that's not going to help, but he's trying to drag Sebastian's body over towards Sebastian's desk on the far side of this room.
I will go over to Sebastian's desk and see what's up there.
Okay.
I'm assuming he has like papers and stuff.
He does. It's covered. It's very messy. He was, you've seen it every time. It's always been messy. But he basically, he kind of, as soon as you're already walking that direction, he kind of lets his tendrils go and floats over there with you to see, like, maybe you know better, like a very petulant kid. And he kind of floats over there with you, and there's parchments all over it, and covered in sheet music and so on. The sheet music that you see, though, that is most recent, it seems, you kind of glance it over and you recognize that's that 7-note song that you guys learned previously. That when you learned, in fact, actually, that a baby even exists. It's that running melody of that composition of E, G, G, B, A, B, E. The Egg Babe music that helped you guys realize that there was a second Dellen's Cap. And as you recognize this, the melody on the sheet music, the ink is still wet. It looks like Sebastian probably just finished this today before he was killed. And the title of the song is called The Dirge of the Forgotten. He's got that written at the top. And the baby jellyfish is just motioning towards that sheet music and just pointing at it, and like grabbing it and grabbing it. He snaps a tendril over around your wrist, this kind of octopus-like tentacle, and is pulling your hand towards it.
All right, I guess pick it up, take it over to Cetus.
Okay. Cetus, there's this kind of massive puddle, basically, of jellyfish, because he's just huge, but there's, like, outside of there, and especially as weak as he is, he can't keep his form. So he's kind of just this giant jelly cap with tendrils hanging out of it. He responds to this composition coming close to him, though, and you see that the lights inside of it start to kind of ignite as you're walking towards him. He weakly grasps that scroll, and he raises it up to his body, and you see something start to happen, something that hasn't happened in decades. Thinking back, actually, you only ever saw it happen back at the Lagado Conservatory when work was accepted and then broadcasted to everyone across the reality by the jellyfishes that were in that cave. The lights inside of Cetus's cap begin to swirl again, and it spreads throughout this entire room, and this blue light begins to surround his tendrils and then course through his body, not like a light flashing from a beacon, but rather like ink through water. And the body begins to lift up, and he's floating himself up off of the ground now, and his tendrils are beginning to slowly swirl around him, and he looks vital. He looks like he's getting some of his strength back. And the baby, seeing this, starts to change too. Its entire body begins to surround in this bright green light that starts to disperse off of its body and fill the room, to the point where you can no longer see these two fish or anything else, but your eyes are just awash in this blue and green light kind of cycling back and forth. And we see this blue stream of light followed by green emerging through the college's headquarters and spreading ever outward to the surrounding everything around you. And when people talk about that day, they call it different things. For this moment, when every living person across the whole world simultaneously received the Dellen's Cap gift, for this moment and all the moments that followed soon after, all the moments of sacrifice and heroism and luck, those moments are why they call this day the Vast Erudition, the day that all living beings learned of your actions here. And through Peter's divinations, well, shit, I actually had a spot for a break there, but we're coming near the end. So we will do... Sako, do you have like 10 minutes after you, okay? Or is it hard 4 o'clock?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Then we will go ahead and get through the rest of this so that we can get to the end of the last half of the finale next week. That's insane that we're coming to the actual end now. All right, where did my thing go? All right. There we go. All right, so through Peter's divinations, we see that the city of Mist, besieged and burning, the citizens of this, one of the largest cities in the world, are taking shelter in homes and shops and taverns as the enemy that they can't see tears their civilization apart. Flames are roaring unchecked through the financial district. We see Lord Truman. You guys remember him?
Yeah, name sounds familiar. He's the one that I got that scroll from, right? Was that on this campaign, or was it on the other one?
No, that's this one.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sako.
Wasn't that the guy from the tent when we did the games?
Yeah. So he was, the three people that led you guys to Wonderland, your guides. Well, they were actually, the two of them were actually guiding Lord Truman, who was he's an important noble of Mist. He was the one that was trying to leave you guys behind, was kind of an asshole. But he was, pretty badly wounded through all of that, and he was, somewhat apologetic near the end. But basically, we see him still exhausted from his trip through Wonderland, in his estate overlooking the whole of Mist. There's several advisors nearby. They're barking panic commands to him from the overwhelmed leader. Truman kind of grits his teeth at the disbelief at the day he's having. See nobles and merchants and lowborn, all castes and professions, all huddled up and hiding and fighting, and many of them dying, of course, to this enemy they can't see. We see Mist's... Oh, that's a bit too loud now. We see Mist's Blue Lake District, which is home to the Gladium, where competitors come to spar for fame and riches, like a Colosseum type of a thing. But today the Gladium is a makeshift fortress against the apocalypse. A match had just ended when the hunger arrived, and now there's fighters and spectators alike are trying to defend themselves as they're trapped inside the stadium lobby, where they're trying to board up doors and windows and so on. But the din is broken with a chorus of gasps as a stream of green light and then a stream of blue passes through the room. And that green light passes through all of them, and their minds are instantly filled with this impossible story. It's a story about 8 travelers who left their home and fight bravely for a century against the darkness, against the same menace that was attacking them now. It's a story about the hardships of those 8 faced through those 100 years, about the deaths that they bravely endured, and they worked to understand their foe, the hunger. These people now know everything that Elsbeth wrote in her journal, in the journal of the younger Delenscap that they consumed, and is now broadcasting to the world. Those words, her words that she had written down, are passed through all of them now. And through the cracks in the walls, they realize that they can finally see the forces that are assaulting their city. They can see these shadow creatures that are attacking them, and for a moment they're afraid. And then the blue light touches them, and they all hear a song. And that fear is gone. And the people in the room look at one another wordlessly, as if to ask, did you hear that? Did we all just hear that? And then there's a pound and another pound at their door, and their eyes turn kind of together at this battle waiting for them outside. And they look into one another again, no words, just kind of an acknowledgement that it's time to stop hiding. And with purpose, they move and they form rows with conviction, and every single person pulling up a broken chair leg here or a spear there, and they form lines, and they arrange themselves into fighting units with this tactical precision, and they're ready to fight back. And we will skip back to Nivara just briefly. Feed that one down. There we go. Alright, so Nivara, you're still in the Delenscap chamber, only they're gone. They filled this chamber with that light that passed through the walls and dispersed through reality. And though you never saw that phenomena firsthand back in the conservatory, you weren't next to them when this happened, the feeling is familiar. You know that the world knows now. That everything that was in Elsbeth's journals, everything that you guys went through, the whole world knows. They know your names, they know everything about you. And you're shaken from that realization by a loud rumble back at the college below you. You're still kind of up in the Delenscap chamber. What are you doing?
Cetus and the baby are gone?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I don't see them around, then I guess I'm heading back down.
Okay. All right, so you will move through it relatively quick, but you basically exit the elevator. You see Carrie, Faith, and Ro, who they had been told to grab, finishing off a chaos creature that disperses into this puddle of black liquid. Carrie looks up at you, and there's just this big, wide grin on her face, and it's almost weird for a second because this has been, a very hectic day, certainly. You didn't expect to see a smile when she's been pretty badly wounded already. And she says, "Oh shit, it's you. Like, hang on, like I'm still trying to understand exactly what happened, but what's up, Space Lady?"
Well, have any of you guys seen Ketis?
They kind of look at each other and it's just, no. I mean, he was with you last we saw. And Ro kind of interrupts. He says, "I can't believe I've been friends with a freaking alien this whole time."
Well, did they know about Cetus up there?
Yeah, they've all been in that chamber. They knew that there was a creature up there. They didn't necessarily know what it was or how it worked. They certainly didn't know that it removed memories. But now they do. Now they know everything, and they know that you guys aren't from this planet.
Well, obviously that was an alien, so come on, guys.
Well, they didn't know it was an alien.
That wasn't from here. Yeah, but obviously it's not from here.
He says,
there are no other creatures.
He's still kind of shaking his... All right, we'll skip over to Peter for the sake of time because we're running into it here. Here we go. Peter, as you apparate on the surface of the planet, you see Yorith and Jack standing next to you. Yorith bolts off to the edge of that black circle where Phandalin once stood, and she's kind of gingerly inspecting the surface of this glass with her spectral hands. Remember, she's made lich form. She's actually kind of almost like kneeling down and then laying her head on the side of it, like looking sideways, looking through the flat surface of it, inspecting it really close up. And she kind of floats herself back up to you, and she says, "Okay, so here's my idea. You ready for this? It's kind of a banger." She leans down and grabs a clump of grass up from the ground, and then her hand kind of phases right through it, and then she sighs and says, "All right, I forgot. All right, listen, so you see how everything starts to kind of lose its color when the hunger shows up? And you've seen this 100 times, of course, Peter, but the hunger shows up, the grass gets less green, the sky gets less blue, everything starts to kind of fade a little bit." So she says, "All right, so it's because the hunger cuts us off from the rest of the planar system, and that's how this always wins. It divides up the planes, and then it weakens its prey, and then it overpowers the prime material plane and just kind of gobbles it up. So my idea is She motions over to the circle. She says, "You're going to open a door for us, Peter. You think you can do that?"
See what I can do.
She says, "So you remember that nerd lord back when I was still in the book, but when we were in the lab last year, he was using the Codicus ring to transmute circles into different gemstones, which resonated with the other planes. And if we could do that to this circle this big, we could poke a hole in the barrier until the hunger, or poke a hole in the barrier that the hunger put up. Get some fucking otherworldly reinforcements."
Yep, I still got those little pieces to reference to in my bag, I think.
She kind of nods. She says, "Good. I mean, that's exactly it. So, look, now, I mean, we don't have the Codicus ring, but luckily for us, we already have this perfect stone disc already made. This looks like pure obsidian to me, and we have the most talented mage that ever lived here, right?"
I'd hope so.
She chuckles. She means, "I mean, I meant me, but like, sure." She's like, "I'm just kidding." But she says, if you open a gate and call that bony bitch through, the one that threatened me in Oliver's lab, do you remember that? You know what she's talking about?
Yeah.
So Ophelia was with you guys in the Crystal Kingdom in Oliver's lab, and she kept sensing that there was a lich nearby. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that lich was in the book. It was Yorith, which is why the book tried to kill her. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So, anyways, she says, "So if you open a gate and call that bony bitch through, then I mean, I bet we can convince her to bring her hordes of deadlies with her. Crow is all about preserving balance, after all."
All right. What do we need to do?
She says, "I mean, there's a spell I can't do it myself, but I mean, I'm familiar with it. It's called Gate. Do you know that? Do you know that incantation?"
Probably do, yeah.
So you're
level 9, yep.
Okay. So while you're kind of flipping through your book, getting it ready, Jack pipes in. He says, you mean to bring through Crow's Reaper? I mean, she'll want to take you back with her." And she interjects. She says, "Bitch can try. I ain't going nowhere." Make we didn't do preparations, so it wouldn't be a concern here. But make an Arcana check. The DC is really high, so.
Arcana check. Let me check
Yep.
real quick.
Almost. You kind of place your palms on this smooth surface, this really cool smooth surface of the black glass where Phantolin's was, and you start to kind of channel through it. And as you do, there's these waves of energy that travel across the circle like ripples on water. The glass starts to change, and it feels like it's draining every ounce of energy you can out through it. It extends 30, 40, 50 feet, 100 feet, and then the ripple kind of slows, and it stops spreading, and you feel it just kind of empty, just disperses through it. And Jack and Yorth look over the circle. Jack looks kind of disappointed. Yorth says, can you try it? And she's about to say try again, but she's cut off as a tendril and then another and then a third come dripping down out of the sky. They crash several hundred feet away, and immediately hordes of those chaos creatures start pouring out from them and racing towards you guys. Jack draws his glass wand out. Yorth starts reciting a spell, and Jack says, "Fuck, that's a lot of dudes." And the two of them kind of turn their back towards this encroaching horde, or back towards you rather, to face this horde and start firing volleys of fireballs and arcane bolts in all directions. The same thing happens though, so I mean, you're going to try again?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and make another Arcana check. Okay. Same thing happens. You put your hands down on, and this time it probably doesn't even extend quite as far. And I'm sure it's like Peter's probably super frustrated and annoyed by this. The gate doesn't extend out as far as it did last time. Makes it about half probably as far. And then it reverts and is pulled back. And you feel yourself like you just ran a marathon, like you're breathing really hard, like you're leaning over on this because you're getting tired. You just feel drained. And then from behind you hear Jack shout as one of the shadows gets the better of him. It rakes a claw across his chest, and he kind of stumbles backwards, still firing missiles off into the crowd. And Yorth drops back from her position to give him coverage, but they're quickly being overrun. And then suddenly there's a shape overhead, and the sky is filled with this roaring, billowing, unbearable heat of this gargantuan firebird, a phoenix that's just beating its wings in a furious rage, sending these waves of flame down across the scorched earth, just dissolving these chaos creatures where they stand, but leaving the three of you unharmed, except for the sweat that's immediately kind of pouring down your brow. and there's this audible crackling through the air as the bird collapses in on itself, leaving like a vacuum, like a reverse vacuum, leaving behind this small young woman, blonde, blue robes, standing about 30 feet away. She smiles this big beaming, familiar smile. She says, "Hey, just like old times, huh, guys?" And you're still kind of leaned over this. You see her. You, of course, recognize that it's Alice. Yorth and Jack, they stand up and they rush over, lifting her. She's not as little anymore, of course, in their arms. They give her a huge hug. She says, "All right, guys, but there's more coming." And she points over the shoulders to the chaos creatures that are coming out. She says, "Peter, by the look on your face, I'm guessing what you're doing is important, so we'll cover you. Go ahead and, if you're going to try it again, go ahead and make another shot." Actually, you know what? Here, what we'll do, at that moment, it crosses your mind that you have a specific item that might help you with this. Something that you found in Oliver's quarters like forever ago. We'll come back to that, so you have a minute to kind of think about that. We'll skip over to Ketis for a sec. All right, G. So, Ketis, you are in this black space, standing in front of this black marble table with these two high-back chairs, and on that table is a chess set. The walls and floors are just all hunger, and then sitting on the chair on his side of the table is Odim. Well, he called himself Martin, M-A-R-T-E-N here, who looks very much the worse for wear. There's basically these kind of cracks in his skin, essentially, that are this same black material. It's kind of sickly and pale, and he's covered with those rifts. And he says, "Well, you don't look so good, Ketis."
Speak for yourself.
He chuckles. He says, "Will you sit?"
Sure.
So you both kind of sit down at the same time. He says, "Well, I want to apologize in advance for being somewhat out of conversational practice. The last conversation we had was really the last conversation that I've had, all those decades ago. So it's good to see you again."
Yeah, you too, in a strange way.
He says, "I've got to know, Ketis, how did you pull it off? How did you hide it from me for so long?" He's referring to Apotheosis, the hit.
Yeah, just kept running. Found a way to separate it and make its energy not as easy to find.
You see, as soon as you say that, his features kind of freeze for a second. He kind of tilts his head to the side, like, huh, like that's intriguing to him. He says, let me turn that down a little bit. He says, "Well, old friend, you should know I'm not really in charge here anymore. When the hunger stopped being fed, its priorities changed. It's not a sentient being searching for oblivion anymore. It's just hungry." He says, "Back on my world, when my name was still Martin, we had a book, an important one. It eventually it acquired almost a divine reverence itself. The opening line was, I think, one that made us listen to that tentacle-faced priest when he came. And it said, 'From the formless void's gaping maw, there springs an entity. Not an entity such as you or I can conceive of, or you can conceive of, nor I. An entity more primordial than the elements themselves, yet constantly coming into existence even as it's destroyed. It is the child of chaos, the pathway to the next.'" He says, "The darkness will swallow the land, and there, in its wake, will form a storm as the appetite of nothing expands over the world." He says, "So you see, when that priest came and told us that he would break the shackles of life, I mean, we listened. We'd had this book forever. This was important to us, so the word sounded like honey. The purpose that brought my world together and turned us into this, it didn't care about that purpose. I don't care about this purpose anymore. The hunger doesn't care about that purpose anymore. It just wants to consume. It's not going to keep me around for much longer. I failed it for over a decade with you guys hiding it. So it's not going to let that pass. I didn't bring you here to pump you for information. I genuinely just brought you here because I kind of needed to say goodbye to somebody, and I just genuinely want to do that."
Yeah, well, it looks like you got used to, huh?
You see him kind of tilt his jaw to the side a little bit, and he kind of tilts his head back and forth as if he's kind of weighing it, but he kind of nods. He says, I didn't really know how this meeting was going to go. I mean, you know the rules of Parlay, and I brought you here, so I suppose you could kill me if you wanted to." And as he says that, the walls around you just sprout these eyes, like a potato sprouting eyes kind of thing. Just these bright white eyes appear all over the walls and the floor and the ceiling, and they're all staring just furiously down at him. And he kind of clams up for a second. The hesitance to share too much, basically. He's trying to be careful, I guess, about sharing too much. And he says, I guess that and he kind of lifts his head up as if he's motioning to the walls, essentially, would prefer that you didn't kill me. I mean, can we just talk? You tell me a story about your life, Ketis? I mean, anything. Maybe we can play another game. He kind of motions at the table.
Yeah, why not?
The chess pieces start kind of moving into position on their own, like they're all animated. He says, how about you just tell me anything about the last decade? I mean, tell me, look, when you broke our contract, who was it that protected you from me? I felt a divine source, but I couldn't tell who it was.
That was the help from Elsbeth and the memory thing, right? Is that what it was?
No.
Huh?
When you forsook Odim was your patron. Well, the hunger is that you didn't know it at the time, but it was.
Oh yeah, it was.
Patron.
Yeah, Ophelia and Crow, right?
It was Crow. Yeah.
So I'll tell him it's one of the other gods, Crow.
Well, so keep in mind, Odim is an ascended. He's not a god. The actual god, basically, to get more powerful than Odim, you would have had to go to an actual god, and that's what you did. Not on purpose necessarily, but just because you knew Ophelia.
I just made another god besides Shug because he was working for Shug. So.
He works for Shug, but he's not Shug. He doesn't have the power that Shug does. Shug is also.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Shug is also kind of indifferent. Odim is kind of don't worry about that. Basically, Shug isn't. He's working on behalf of Odim or on Shug's purpose, I guess, but only in the same sense that they're both trying to sow chaos, entropy. Anyways, so you guys kind of take your first couple of moves, of chess, and really quickly he's adopting like a really strange strategy. He's just trying to move his king out from the back line as quickly as possible and move it into the fray, and it doesn't make sense. You've played chess with him a couple dozen times, and this is not a great chess strategy. You're not even that great at it necessarily, but this isn't normal for him. Like you can immediately tell that he's not playing right. He's doing something stupid, and you know this. You recognize that it's clear that he's trying to move his king out, and you've never seen him fuck up this bad before. Hush, Harold. You're not important to the story. And he says he moves the king out to kind of capture one of your pawns, and as he does, you see these faint threads of light coming off of the king that ensnare the pawn and then pull the pawn towards it, and then it sucks it into its mass. Basically, the pawn is kind of absorbed into the king, and then the king grows slightly larger. And it pulls the pawn into the king's space and just kind of absorbs it in. And when it does, there's this kind of circling thread that is surrounding the king. Basically it grew larger, and there's this like ribbon around it almost. And as this peculiar scene unfolds, he's just kind of staring at you intensely. We'll skip back to Peter here for a second. There it is. So you're immediately caught with a recollection that there's something that you acquired that would help you with this. What are your thoughts?
I was actually going through all of my inventory.
I don't think it's in your inventory. It might be. What is it? I didn't do a good job of putting all the items in your inventory. Sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just looking through it. There's really nothing there. But
okay.
You could always use a jar of bees, but I don't think that'll help.
Didn't you throw that or give it to somebody or something?
I don't think I got it back. I'm not sure.
Okay. Anyway, that's most used item by far, for sure, for the campaign was a jar of bees. Anyways, do you through your roll the bones ritual this morning, you recognized that you saw this scene, basically you kind of leaning over this. You didn't necessarily understand it at the time, but you were leaning over with one hand on this black glass and kind of one knee against it, and in your other hand, in your left hand, you were holding a small golden compact with a green disc in the center of it.
Oh yeah, that's the item, the little perfectly sphere thing.
Yeah, the perfect disc of emerald inside of it. And through that, before, you were seeing through the planes to the other planes, remember?
Yep, we saw some skyscrapers and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So in thinking of that, in that kind of that memory that your roll the bones ritual kind of, not memory, but foresight that gave you, you pull that out of your pocket and flip it open and look through it, and soon enough, at the moment you do, as soon as you look through that, you kind of call to your mind the purpose of looking for Ophelia, to find her, based on your suggestion that you guys try to find Ophelia. So you look through it, and the scene shifts more than once. It goes over and over again, and then you see this kind of misty island where there's these old, long dead trees with these kind of gnarled branches that are up through the middle of it. And you see her standing on the edge of this black lake, and you know there's not supposed to be a lake there, but it's just formless and black on the edge of this island. And she's surrounded by countless millions of these glowing orbs that are just moving in waves at a barrier that you can only just barely see. They're kind of flying up from her as she motions towards it, and they crash into a wall of some kind, and then they kind of fall back as they hit it, and then she sends them again, and she keeps doing it over and over again. Every few seconds she's trying again and again, kind of sending these orbs that are just kind of swarming up like pollen almost, and smashing into this wall, and then kind of backing away from it, and then rinse and repeat. What are you doing? Just doing it every few seconds, like every 10 seconds or so. There's kind of an assault against that side of the wall.
Is there a way that I can try to touch the glass again in the same pattern?
You want to time it with hers?
Yeah.
Okay. Make an Arcana check again. This time roll it with advantage. With the DC being reduced, it's I don't want to run it for too long, especially since we're over time already. But basically, with the DC being reduced by doing it right, doing it at the same time as her, you touch the black glass and you feel that this power kind of just discharge out from you. It shoots out from your hand, and there's just no ripple this time. There's no slow conversion. It's just instantly charged, and all throughout this disc here. And as it changes, it's almost like you threw open the doors of a wind tunnel. There's just this massive just explosion of air going straight up through the disc, as if it was somehow a portal to the windiest surface of a mountaintop somewhere. And your hat is knocked off, and it's flown up through the air, and it flies several dozen feet up straight up in the air before it kind of tumbles out of the wind and it lands in the grass behind you. It's already starting to the grass is already starting to regain its color, and shades of blue peek out through the sky above as this wind is kind of blowing away the hungrish clouds. And all across this world, the heat becomes hotter, and water becomes wetter, and light becomes lighter, and shadows become darker. And from that black window that you've opened, something starts to take shape. 1,000 figures rising up to spectral and terrifying, yet clearly not hostile towards you. And they begin to swarm out in all directions, an unending flood of these spirits kind of washing over the land and crashing into the black columns of the hunger that were around your colleagues that were there, just hacking away at them. And standing at the center of this disc of obsidian is a woman clothed in a strange garb holding a long scythe, obviously Ophelia, shooting up far above her, though far above this gate. The streaks of this divine light kind of race through the sky as these planes are being reconnected at last. We will skip back to Ketis real quick. We're almost at the end, I promise. Ketis, you're still playing this game, and it's still weird, and Odim says, so, I guess, what's it like working for Crow? I mean, I'm kind of impressed. I mean, it's a little bit ironic, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. But we're used to death anyway. Died a few times myself, so I guess it's kind of fitting, right?
Yeah, but I mean, ironic specifically that, if anybody could hate me more, I would be surprised. Like, Crow really doesn't, or you realize that, right?
Yeah, well, I'm guessing he's very much about keeping things in order, and you're not, so I can see how you could rub each other the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, Crow is certainly about, balance and all, and, death has its place in balance. It's kind of a necessity, and I was kind of, maybe not entirely of my own volition, sure, but I mean, I'll take responsibility for it. I was kind of preventing death in the sense that the souls that should have been going to Crow's Thicket were still kind of stuck in me. He takes another piece with his king, and as he says that, that's kind of same scene kind of replays where the bishop that he takes kind of is absorbed inside of the king, and the king grows, and another thread of light kind of ties around the king piece. You say anything?
Now to say that's an interesting chess game board pieces.
He kind of he looks up, he looks around, looking at the eyes to see if they're paying attention. They're still there. And then he kind of looks at you and looks back down at the board like he wanted to say something and then chose not to. He says, Old Crow is understandably quite unhappy with me, you know, feeding the hunger. I mean, those countless trillions of souls that were prevented from making their way to Crow's Thicket, you know, he's understandably pissed. I mean, he's trying to say something without saying it. He says, at this point, though, even knowing what fury he holds for me, I mean, I might kind of welcome the end that he would bring. And the white eyes that are surrounding on the walls, the ceiling and the floor all around you are very focused intently on him. And when he mentions the hunger by name, they are like shaking in anger. And he takes another pawn and it's pulled inside the king. Another thread ties around the king. And every time he does this, he's barely nodding and looking down at the piece and then back at you and then back at the piece. And he does this. He says, back before all of this, my name was Martin. I was a motivational speaker, Ketis. I mean, professionally, I told people what they needed to hear. Then he says that very emphatically, and he stares emphatically at the board, clearly trying to force your attention on these chess pieces. One of your chess pieces, a knight, moves of its own volition. You know, as the same game, you kind of mentally are telling this to move, and it moves, approaches the king, and as your knight moves towards this king, the piece animates, and it's this dark-cloaked rider wielding a long black scythe, and this rider raises the blade up, and it rakes it across the king and cuts all of those glowing threads that were surrounding the king, and suddenly this king just explodes. And all the pieces that it consumed come flying out of it and go scattering across the table. And when that happens, the room around you just screams. The eyes themselves are just erupting in fury. And those eyes just are burning and squinting with this rage. And suddenly long tendrils snap up out of the walls and the floor and the ceiling, and Martin stands up from his chair, but it's just too late. These tendrils are just tearing into him, and those rifts in his body are starting to expand and tear open. He's the tendrils are grabbing into exposed skin and pulling away where the rifts are kind of just ripping. He's kind of beginning to tear him apart, and as he kind of reaches Martin kind of reaches an arm out towards you as he's being pulled into the black nothingness, this oily slick, and he's kind of reaching out towards you, and he kind of pulls his legs as best he can, and he's reaching for you, and he's starting to scream. What do you do?
Grab his hand and see if I can pull on that.
He's through. It's hard to understand what he's saying. He yells at you, break the bonds, Ketis, just the rules of parlay, just break the bonds.
Okay. Then I'll hit him if I have my rune with me.
You can summon it to you. I would say that in this space it probably wouldn't even matter. You can kill him, period. It's not even, with the way parlay worked, it didn't even, it was almost just okay, I'll kill them, like it's a mental thought almost. It's not even necessarily a physical action.
Just I'll do then, see if I can break the tendrils off of him.
Okay. You do that, and the eyes go slack almost instantly. It was just a thought from your mind, and where he's kind of was sinking into it, he's almost frozen, but the body begins to disintegrate anyways. Like it's not being pulled into it anymore. It's like falling into ash. The same way that when he killed you, what Peter and Nivara saw was just your body kind of turning into ash and falling apart. And then you would reawaken in the next cycle. But this experience is not altogether unfamiliar from your time serving Odim. Martin's soul leaves his body, and the tendrils that snake out to try to grab it from the air between you, but they pass right through it. It's like they're trying to grab it with these like tendril hands almost. But it zips across this tiny space and it hits you in the chest. And the room vibrates in this furious anger, and those pupils of each eye are just darting around, just enraged. And the new tendrils that snap out of the wall, they reach out trying to grasp at you as you feel a new presence in this room. I have a VA again. And you struggle to make sense of this, to understand what it is you're seeing, and then you realize that it doesn't matter. You wouldn't be able to understand this. It's Crow. You recognize this presence as cosmic and endless from an unknowable dimension far above your simple third. You see flashes of something incomprehensible, just teeth and claws and eyes and things that your mind just refuses to make sense of. And this cacophonous voice just rings in your ears, and it says, "Welcome to my service, champion. Now go finish this imposter, retrieve the souls that were stolen from me. Owen, you can relieve your predecessor. Her work is complete."
Don't mind if I do.
And we'll come back to you later. For now, we just got the... yeah, well, we'll finish right here then. Oops, too loud. So with the peoples of Ur now fighting back, with some assistance from that inexhaustible supply of dead, Yorith, Jack, Alice, and Peter teleport back to the college on Indris to find Elsbeth and stop the hunger. Once back there, you guys see Carrie, Rodalt, Faith, and Nybara smashing through the remaining chaos creatures inside the college and making their way out to the moon's surface to face the approaching judges. Ketis, this is where Lord Crow chose to drop you. The blackness abates, and you find yourself standing on this white moon, this dust swirling out over your boots, as four liquid-sane gargantuan giants plod their way towards you. And that is where we will pick up next week.